The idea is we're going to start with the gold uncommons to kind of use these as an opportunity to like figure out what the archetypes are wanting to do. And Dave, would you share with the class what our grading system is?
Yes, absolutely. So our grading system is 2 to 12, with 7 being the highest, and anything going up to 7. Oh, sorry, wait, that's the wrong one. We're gonna do pick order for the uncommon. So where do we want to pick it in a pack? Are we happy first picking it? Are we happy third picking it? Do we want to get it on the wheel? Are we never going to pick it? And then I think for the commons, we're just going to talk about like where we think they slot in and how many of them do we want. And probably indicators if we're going to pick them highly or not so highly. But I think we're going to really try to power through this in 4 hours or so today. So we won't use a lot of words on those things.
Yeah, but I do like the idea of figuring out like what deck wants the individual commons. But let's launch off here with the Golgari uncommon for the set, which is Ancient Lumberknot. 2 black green for a 1/4 tree folk. Each creature you control with toughness greater than its power assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power.
Yeah, so the blue black or the green black mechanic seems to be butts matter.
Butt stuff.
Yeah, basically. The interesting thing is there's, I think when we've seen this in the past, there's been like one card that is kind of like a payoff for this mechanic, and it's usually this, you assign power differently. But there are a couple of other kind of payoffs for it. There's a transform card later that flips into something that sacrifices and deals damage or drains your opponent or whatever for the toughness of the creature you sacrificed. So there's a couple of it looks like there's a couple of ways to get into this archetype, even if you don't have this uncommon. I'm probably not interested in getting in this one early in most packs, but I would look like if I'm getting past this like 5th or 6th, I think there's a good opportunity to read that this is open and then hop into it. And it looked like there were some interesting commons that if I can get 2 of these, there's a 13 toughness common, or I think it's a common in black. That if I had 2 of these, I would pick up every one of those 113s that I could.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. I would put this about 5th. So like I'm not first picking this and trying to force the archetype, but as long as there's other payoffs, I could see this being a big deal. And you could conceivably pass this early, still get into the archetype and be comfortable because there are other payoffs. So it's not like you've passed this and closed the door to butts matter. It's just, you might rather have it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, up next is our Rakdos signpost uncommon, which is Blood Tithe Harvester. It's black-red for a 3/2 Hampire. When it enters the battlefield, create a blood token. This is our first instance of this, so I'll explain what a blood token is, but we will see more of them. This is an artifact with 1 tap, sack, discard a card, draw a card, so it lets you rummage once. You can also tap the Bloodline Harvester, sacrifice it, target creature gets -X until end of turn, where X is twice the number of blood tokens you control. This is at sorcery speed.
Yeah, so when I was going through the set last night, blood tokens seemed like they were tacked on to a lot of cards. And it reminded me of the energy mechanic, where a lot of the cards that made blood tokens use blood tokens, but there were some cards that made blood tokens and didn't use them, and some that used them that didn't make them. But really, it's just an extra resource to use. And if you can't use it, unlike energy, you can always just rummage with it, which is really handy. I'm surprised it didn't actually have like the food mechanic where you could just gain life off of it as well. But you're going to see a lot of these types of cards where actually, most of the other cards you see sacrifice the blood tokens themselves, so you're spending that resource, where in this case, the ability is just based off of the number of blood tokens that you have. It appears to be pretty easy to get blood tokens if you're in this archetype. Like if you're just in red-black in general, you will have blood tokens laying around. So having the ability to trade a 3/2, a 2-drop that's a 3/2 for probably whatever you want later in the game, I think is really high. This is probably first pickable out of some packs with a weak rare, and probably second or third pick if I'm getting it past. I would probably speculate on this.
Yeah, me too. This one's quite strong, and it's really not asking much. And the blood tokens seem good on their own. Like, I love a mechanic that will help you get through a mana flood or a mana screw, and blood tokens look like they're very interested in helping with that. So I think I'd be happy third picking this, and again, could see first picking it out of some packs.
Yeah, I guess the blood tokens are kind of close to a clue token.
Late
Obviously you're not
game.
gaining a full card out of it, but late game, it's basically a clue token. So like, a 2-drop that brings you a clue token would be fantastic. So I'm in for these.
Yeah, this one's a good one. It's a good
Yeah.
one. All right, up next is our Azorius uncommon. This is Brinecomber. It is 1 blue-white for a 1/1 spirit. When it enters the battlefield or becomes the target of an aura spell, create a 1/1 flying spirit creature token. It has Disturb for blue-white, and it becomes Brinebound Gift, which is an aura enchant creature. Whenever it enters the battlefield or the enchanted creature becomes the target of an aura spell, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. If it would go to the graveyard, exile it.
This is a bizarre little card. So I'm about 99% certain that all of the Disturb in this set just turn into auras. I could be wrong. There might be one or two that I missed. Maybe there's a rare that comes back as a creature. But obviously that's different than the previous set where everything came back as a creature pretty much. I really like this card, except we're going to play flying or no flying quite often with cards in this set. This does not have flying on its own, so you're not getting 2/1/1 flyers right off the bat, but you do eventually get 2/1/1 flyers out of it after you flip it for its Disturb. I really like this card. I think this archetype is really cool. It's a different approach to auras that people are maybe going to hate. Kind of reminded me of the bestow mechanic in like a reverse way, but it's not as battle cruiser style, magic as Theros was, as OG Theros was. I'm in for this one. I think it's probably on par with the Blood Tithe Harvester, but I think this requires a lot more investment. Blood Tithe Harvester is good if you just end up like, with 22 black cards and then this is like a black-red card in your deck. It's still probably okay. Whereas the Brinecomber, you're going to need, critical mass of Disturb to make it work. But I think it's worth it. There's a lot of really good Disturb cards at kind of across rarities and across parts of your mana curve. That just tucking this in at 3, I think, is going to be pretty good. I'll probably pick it. I'd be happy to pick it 3rd, I think.
I'm a little lower on it initially, but I suspect that'll rise as I look at the format. I think the idea that we're like invested in playing a 3-mana 1/1, like that's a rough stat line, but it's a platform to put auras on, and then it's an aura itself when it dies. So I think it really is like you need to be invested in this mechanic. It's kind of like you said with the Blood Tithe Harvester. I can throw that in a red-black deck that isn't heavily invested in blood tokens, if such a thing exists, and it'll still be fine. Whereas this, I've got to have stuff to do with it. And I had some blue-white decks in the previous format that really didn't have that much Disturb. So that's the only part that makes me a little nervous about this one. But I think I'm about where I was on the Lumberknot and would like it about 5th.
This is probably the Murmuring Mystic of the format.
Murmuring Mystic, the 1/5 that made...
The 1/5.
Okay.
Yeah, except it doesn't block very well.
Yeah. I mean, which is a cost, right?
Yeah.
But I can see this being good. So I'm with you. I'll give this a try. Like I said, my main thing that I like about it is it's a solid platform to put auras on, and then it dies into an aura itself. So that's kind of cool.
Yep.
Child of the Pack is 2 red-green for a 2/5 human werewolf. You can spend its casting cost to make a green wolf, has Daybound, and it flips into Savage Packmate, which is a 5/5 trample. Other creatures you control get +1/+0.
Yeah, like I know you love mana sinks, and I looked at the front side and I'm like, man, that's pretty slow. Like a 2/5, and you got to pay a bunch of mana. Like obviously, late game is pretty good, but then second you flip it to the backside, and because you can make the token, you can control this flip. I think there's a lot of play patterns where you go play this on turn 4, make a token on turn 5, flip it, and you have 3 or 4 creatures that are kind of Lorge the next turn. I'm definitely in for this. I don't know. I take it higher than the Lumberknot so far, probably higher than the Comer, maybe around the same as the Harvester. That's probably like an early pick, maybe first pick out of some packs.
Agree. I'd put it at 3rd, which is kind of like that's where I'm really happy to take this card, but I will first pick this out of some packs. This is obviously my favorite one of the set so far. Yeah. This looks great.
Yeah, and it blocks, and you're not afraid to block with it either, too.
Yeah, like give me.
Yeah.
Markov Purifier is 1 white-black for a 2/3 vampire cleric with lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, you may pay 2. If you do, draw a card.
Yeah, I wish this had flying because then it's drawing cards itself.
It still could.
Yeah, it doesn't appear that it will be difficult to gain life, but it may work if you're trying to make this work. You may have to play some like dorky like tap to gain 1 life type cards to really get this to shine. I think it's going to take a little bit of work to make this happen. On its own as a dual color 2/3 life link, I'm pretty underwhelmed. But if you have 7-8 ways to gain life easily, especially something that flies, obviously I think this goes way up in value. So this is probably behind most of the other ones so far for me. Picking it highly if I'm already in the archetype for sure. This is probably like a 5th to 6th pick for me.
And this is implying to us that like life gain is the archetype for black-white. Is that the case?
Yes, that appears to be, yeah. Pretty typical black-white stuff. If you didn't notice, werewolves are the red-green mechanic from the last card. It wasn't really obvious there.
It is, but that kind of like I think is worth taking a moment for a talking point. That means the red-green cards are really going to need to stand on their own because the synergy, like there's not a lot of synergy with werewolves other than it's cool to flip them if you have instants.
Yep.
So I'm going to be really looking at the red-green cards to like, or can you carry this fight on your own? Whereas in black-white, I might overpay for a flying life linker because I would value the life gain. So I think I'm with you. I'm again putting this at a 5. I think I'm like 5 on Lumberknot, Brinecomer, and Purifier, and a little higher on the Harvester and the Child of the Pack.
Yep.
All right, Markov
Agreed.
Waltzer is 2 red-white for a 1/3 with flying and haste. At the beginning of combat on your turn, up to 2 target creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn.
It wasn't really obvious to me what the red-white mechanic was, but it could just be red-white punch you in the face. There was a little bit of white equipment. Yeah, there was a little bit of white equipment, but like not enough to make it like it's like an equipment type set. So, yeah, I think you're just looking to punch people in the face, which is totally fine. This card's fine. I mean, it's good. It's good.
No, it
obviously.
isn't.
I think it is. I think it reminds me of that goblin that gives things like +2/+0, except you're spreading it out over itself and then some other creature in this case, probably.
Okay. So Battle Rattle Shaman, but
yeah, I think it does a reasonable impression of that, and the fact that this has flying and haste means that like you're probably always getting in with at least one creature. This creature, but yeah, it's my least favorite of the bunch so far.
I really liked Lorehold as an option for what else red-white could do other than her aggro. That seems kind of lazy to me. There do need to be aggro decks in a format, but like having that be the whole theme kind of disappoints me here. This one is significantly worse than the other ones. It makes me worry about red-white a little bit in general, but I'm going to pay attention to what they've got as like real aggro mechanics. So I'm going to put this one at like, I guess I would be happy to take it 7th. Because I need to put it definitively behind the other ones for me.
Yeah. This does help out with the training mechanic, which we'll see later. And there are some decent white training related cards. So it can give you a little bit of extra oomph there. But yeah, I'm about the same as you. If it's late in a pack, maybe I'll think about it, but it's not a reason for me to play red-white.
I have a feeling that training is going to play similar to Mentor, which is the obvious comparison, but it's like you didn't really get multiple hits off of Mentor unless you were winning the game. So it's kind of like, hey, here's this snowbally thing. If your opponent can possibly stop it, they will. If they can't, you've already won.
I think that's pretty fair, yeah.
Okay. Sigarden Paladin is 2 green-white for a 4/4 Human Knight. As long as you've put counters on a creature this turn, it has trample and lifelink. 1 green-white, target creature you control with a counter on it gains trample and lifelink. What is the... I'm not sure from this what the green-white mechanic is.
4 power matters. So there's a bunch of cards. No. Yeah, no, obviously it's +1/+1 counters. There's a couple of instances of cards that care about when you put +1/+1 counters on things, and there's a couple of cards that put +1/+1 counters on things. Both of those work really well together, and a lot of them that I saw, I'd be very keen in just playing, period, whether or not I had a payoff for them. So for example, there's like a 3/3 flyer that distributes +1/+1 counters.
Okay.
So yeah, so I think this is a good reason to try to get into that archetype. And on its own, it just stands as a 4/4 with potentially, a little bit of upside. Maybe you didn't get a bunch of +1/+1 counter synergies. There's still the opportunity maybe to be able to activate this once or twice throughout the course of a game. So the floor on this card is pretty decent, I think. It's probably on par with the top uncommon so far that we've seen so far.
Yeah, it puts it about third for me. Zombub's pointing out that it's probably training that they're looking to go for here, so I can dig that too. And it's hard to argue with a 4-mana 4/4. But yeah, I think exactly. I'll put this third. So it's up there with the vampire, the spirit, the werewolf. All right, blue-black. I wonder what their mechanic will be. We have a Skull Scob for blue-black for a 2/2 with exploit. When this creature enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a creature. Whenever a creature you control exploits a non-token creature, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. That's new.
So the play, yeah, that's new. We no longer have decay tokens. So the joke here is that Skull Scab comes in and exploits itself and makes a 2/2 token.
Nice.
But don't do that. Yeah, don't do that. Achievement unlocked if you accidentally click that on Arena. So obviously it's exploit. Black and blue have a lot of like little sacrifice foddery things, but there's also some tokens in green that you can sacrifice as well. There's a lot of insect tokens if you're playing Sultai colors, which is kind of interesting. This is a really good additional payoff for your exploit. So a lot of exploit is already pretty good on its own. There's some cards that are fine exploiting themselves. There's a lot of cards that are fine or that are better exploiting other crummy creatures. But this also just gives you extra zombies to sacrifice to exploit later if you don't want to sacrifice your base creatures. You don't get the token from them, but it's just like an extra like little oomph that you could use in a pinch if you had to. I'm a big fan of this card. I think this is a really good reason to go blue-black and really hammer home those exploit synergies.
Yeah, and it's one of those cards that's just going to get better the more exploiters you have. So the idea isn't that I'm excited to sacrifice something and make one zombie token. It's that I have a bunch of other exploit cards. So as I'm doing that and getting zombies, I'm tickled about that. Yep. Where are we taking this one? Is it in the same batch with the child and the harvester, or is it one behind?
I think I'm picking it earlier because I do want to set my flag down. I do want to claim my territory and then just take every exploit card that gets past me in pack 1. So I'm probably picking it pretty early, like third at least, maybe first out of some packs.
Okay, I think I'm a little lower on this one initially, but I need to see how dense exploit is before I really confirm there. So I'll go fifth for now.
Yep. That's fair.
Vile Spawn Spider is green-blue for a 2/3 spider with reach. At the beginning of your upkeep, mill a card. 2 blue, green, sacrifice the spider, create an insect creature token for each creature card in your graveyard. Sorcery speed.
Yeah, I guess it's like a spider spawning callback, eh?
Yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah, there's a decent amount of self-mill in blue-green. That seems to be the mechanic. I don't know so much that its graveyard matters, but it's really just like putting things in your graveyard matters. So there's an enchantment that you make tokens every time a creature card goes to your graveyard and you self-mill. And there's creature cards that self-mill. And there's a lot of, I think there's like a looter. If you discard a creature, you have to discard a creature for it. So like you can get a lot of creatures in your graveyard. I worry that this is going to be too slow in general because like it's a lot of setup for this card. And obviously you don't get to cast it twice like you did with spider spawning. So I think it's gonna take a little bit of work to make this work for you. And because of that, I'll probably pick it a little later in the pack. Whereas I think the exploit, the Skull Scab, is probably better suited for picking early and kind of like jamming every exploit card in you see. I think this one's going to take a lot more work. I think the really good players are really going to make this work. And for me, that will take, a few times seeing what the deck looks like before I know how to build it, and then I can go in on it.
That's funny. This is right up there with the Child of the Pack for me. But I'm a sucker for base stats. Like, yeah, it's a 2/3 reach for 2. That's great on turn 2. It's going to mill me. That's something that I'll want in this deck. So it's enabling other cards. So I'll have some disturb cards. Presumably there's other reasons I want to get junk in the graveyard. And then late game, when I'm, top decking my 2-drop and don't expect it to do anything, instead it might be, 6/1/1s and my opponent's at 5. And I'm like, cool, we got a way to close the game. So I think this one's right up there for me, and I'm putting this one at third. I like it a little better than the Scab. So it'll be interesting to see how these decks play out, but I just love the base stats on this thing.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think you could convince me to go a little higher on it.
Okay, fair enough. Let's talk about Wandering Mind, which is 1 blue-red for a 2/1 flying horror. When it ETBs, look at the top 6 cards. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land card and put it into your hand. Rests on the bottom in a random order.
So I guess it spells matters again. It's
Looks
a
like
pretty
non-creature, non-lands matter.
non-creature, non-land, but that's basically spells matter, like instants and sorceries matter. Yeah, this is pretty good. It should be really easy to draw a card of this most of the time. This is just Cloudkin Sphinx. No, what was it? The 2/1 Cloudkin Seer?
Yeah, Seer.
Yeah. It's just Cloudkin Seer. And that was pretty good. But that was also a common, I think.
It was a common and it was 1 color.
Yeah, easier to cast, always drew you a card. Didn't give you the card selection. So I mean, I don't think this is not a reason to play blue-red, but it's a decent card on its own. Like if you're picking this out of the pack with the intention of playing this and drawing a card every time, you're probably pretty close to what you're going to be doing with it.
It is. It's just there's a limit to how many creatures you can put in a non-creature matters deck. So having a creature that doesn't really trigger that, it's just a value card. Like it always makes me a little disappointed. I'd rather like put prowess on this thing, and we're talking.
That
seems really good.
It does fly. It'll do some chip damage, right?
Yeah.
Like if you curve out into this, it'll get 4 points of damage in and draw you a card, which is not the worst.
It's not. It feels like if spells matter is the archetype, like they could have given us a payoff rather than a, hey, here's a solid value card. All that said, there's not much to complain about. The card's fine. I'm putting this in the 5th slot, so a step behind some of the others.
Yeah, it's always interesting to me that the split in a gold set, or in a set with few gold cards, the split between payoffs and enablers.
Yeah.
Right, and how it doesn't seem to be really balanced. This one obviously isn't more of an enabler or just a value card, like you said. But a lot of these ones that we looked at are, payoffs are like really synergistic. So I always find that interesting to see if like can I make up that loss if I take Wandering Mind? Can I get my payoffs in blue and red later? Mm-hmm. Like what does that deck look like? Because I'm not getting it from the gold cards.
Yeah. So, and we've got some folks in chat talking about this. And yeah, WotC obviously tells you what the archetypes are, but the point of doing these reviews is sometimes they kind of miss them. And it's worth going through and figuring out what are the colors actually doing. However, they are really good, like lately, about designing basically a small cube for us to play, a very low-powered cube, which is a big reason why I wanted to go through the commons and talk about what deck wants this instead of actually grading them, because I don't really see the point in that. But let's jam through here. I'll do the artifacts, and then we can go into the colored stuff, because I kind of want to hit what sort of fixing options we'll have as we're looking at the other cards. So first up here is Blood Servitor. This is 3 mana for a 2/2 construct that creates a blood token.
You really gotta want blood tokens to play this, I think. Like if you don't have blood synergies, I don't think this ever makes a deck for me.
I don't think it does very often. I could see it being a thing to sacrifice in your exploit deck. It is a card that could help you smooth out your draw a little bit, but it doesn't look particularly valuable to me. So maybe somebody that's gone very deep on blood tokens could be interested in this, and I think that's the deck that would be after it.
Yeah. So it's a gold card. It's a black-red card.
Yeah, I think it's a secret gold card.
Yeah.
It could also be if you've got a bunch of black things that care about blood tokens, but you're blue-black, like you're going to have to use something like this to get them. So like that's a possibility too.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, they're horror tropes too, right? Robots and chainsaws, it's fine. Boarded Window is 3 for an artifact. Creatures attacking you get -1/-0. At the beginning of each end step, if you were dealt 4 damage this turn, exile Boarded Window.
I love this card. I love the flavor of this card. I love the design of this card. It's a shame that it's not all creatures, like all of your opponent's creatures get -1/-1s you can get through on defense, but I understand why. I think this is a really nice card if you have a deck that is looking to do something to win the game. So not just attacking and blocking, not just playing creatures, but like you're trying to combo off. You're trying to get the game to go as long as possible so you can find your combo. This will get you there. I think this is like a control card. Obviously not an aggro card, But if you were predicting that you're going to be on the defensive some amount of most of the time, I would say, I would pick this up and ignore if you're dealt 4 more damage, exile this, because you're probably going to have some number of blockers, and your opponent is going to have a nightmare attacking you if you have this in play.
See, that's funny. I feel like the Blood Servitor would do a better job at holding off things and helping you find your combo than this would. This to me looks like fog on an artifact. It's a little frustrating for your opponent unless they're ahead of you, in which case this doesn't even do anything.
I mean, no, I think, yeah, I think this is better than that. I think it's a repeatable fog, right? It's like tap, tap gain 4 life, tap gain 3 life. And then at some point you have to sacrifice it if you take too much damage.
Yeah, if you've got a board, this will look good. If you don't, it's going to look like trash. So I'm never picking this. Where would you be looking to pick it? Like late in a pack after you're in some sort of Dirtle deck?
Yeah, like pack 2, pack 3. Like if I'm like, let's say I'm like blue-black, like blue-black exploit value. Well, that's a bad.
You'd be happier with the Servitor there.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm green-black, and I have the payoff where I can sacrifice creatures with lots of toughness to drain you, but I need like 10 turns to get there. I'm gonna have some big butt blockers. This will maybe help me get like over the top. If
it won't. You've got big butt blockers. You don't need this.
Maybe.
I mean,
the Aura deck.
This is a card I think that looks good, but isn't.
Controlling decks out there where I'm going to want to get to the late game for sure that I'm going to want this.
Play a wall.
This is a wall.
No, it isn't. This card's really bad. I think
it's better than really bad.
I think it's relatively close to unplayable, and that it's generally a trap to play at. This looks incredibly bad to me.
That's fair.
I like it when we disagree. Let's talk about Ceremonial Knife.
Let's disagree. No, we can skip Ceremonial Knife.
Really? Why?
It reminds me of the treasure, like the pirate's hook.
Okay. Well, I still want to talk about it. So it's
sure, we talk about it.
It's an equipment for 1. An equipped creature gets +1/+0. When it hits somebody, you get a blood token. It's equipped 2.
Oh, it's any combat damage. Oh, I thought it was to a player. I think the pirate's hook was to a player, right?
Yeah, there was a treasure pry crowbar or something that had to hit a player.
Yeah, you had to hit a player to get a treasure out of that one. This one's just any combat damage. Okay, I'm a little higher on it. You can probably wheel these though. So, but again, it's probably a blue-black card, or sorry, a red-black card, unless you really need the blood tokens.
I think any deck that's heavy enough on creatures and maybe doesn't have a lot of mana sinks or something to do at the top end, I could see having room for this. It's like just throw it on a dude that was going to attack or block anyway, and we can start cashing in lands with those blood tokens. So this is a card that may have a use pop up now and then. Mm-hmm. Foreboding Statue is 3 for an artifact creature. It's a 1/2 tap for 1 mana of any color. Put a counter on it. At the beginning of your end step, if there's 3 counters on it, it flips into a 5/5 that adds 1 mana of any color on your pre-combat main phase.
Man, have you ever wanted your mana dork to actually be useful in the late game?
Yeah, sounds good.
Sounds good to me. Yeah, I'm in. I think this is a pretty easy high pick because you'll probably play it in most decks. Like I can't really think, unless you're like heavy aggro, maybe you don't want this card, but I think every other deck probably wants this card or would make use of it.
Yeah, I think we'd be pretty happy to have it. Colorless Mana Dork, so we can take it early and put it in any deck that we're playing. It is worth noting that, the Mana Dork's useful later, but if you turn 3'd it and then used it, it's useful later. It's not helping if you top deck it, right?
It just takes 3 turns to power up, or 4 turns or whatever to power up, right?
Yeah.
You do get to untap it when you take the last token off of it, though.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Oh, no, sorry. That's at the end step. So it does block as a 5/5 the turn after you use it.
Okay, that's kind of a big deal,
right?
That's kind of a big deal.
It is because that extra turn that you have to take off in order to get that 5/5, you can't attack with it, obviously, but you can block with it. So that's kind of cool.
I think I would be happy to pick this as high as 3rd.
Yeah, I think it's pretty reasonable because it is colorless and like I said, I'm pretty sure unless you're aggro, you probably play this card pretty easily. So
yeah, and it looked like only red-white was very aggressive. Yeah. Honored Heirloom is 3 for an artifact, tap for 1 mana of any color, 2 tap, exile a card from a graveyard.
This is the fixing of your format, and it has a little bit of upside. against blue-green, white-blue, maybe black, I think, has some reanimator effects. So you're not embarrassed to put this in your deck if you need fixing.
Yeah. I would look at it. This reminds me obviously of Manalith. Anybody that's seen Manalith will kind of feel that this is a bit familiar. I wanted to play that if I needed fixing in ramp. And I would still encourage people not to use a card like this just for the fixing or just for the ramp, and not to like justify a 3-color deck. You would use this mostly to splash. This doesn't look like a format where we're going to be doing straight 3-color decks.
Agreed, but having the exile effect on it, I think, makes it a little easier to play. So you probably could use it just for fixing or just for ramp if you had to.
Yeah, and you'll be relatively happy that you've got an upside on it.
Yeah. It reminds me of like the Lockets in that regard, right? Where like they always came with that extra ability.
Yeah, but drawing 2 cards is always good.
It's way better. Oh, yeah. Obviously it's way better, right? But like in that case, you would use it for fixing or ramp, not necessarily both.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
Lantern of the Lost is our next uncommon. It's 1 for an artifact. ETBs, exile target card from a graveyard. 1 tap, exile it, exile all cards from all graveyards, then draw a card.
I like the fact that it cantrips, but it's probably still just a sideboard card.
Yeah, I would say this is sideboard at best. It looks like more of a plant for constructed. If we see something that really has a lot of like, graveyard matters shenanigans going on, I could sort of see bringing it in then, but I don't even think you're going to bring it in that often.
I think if like on the arena ladder, if everybody's forcing, let's say blue-white is really good or green-blue is really good and everybody's forcing it, you maybe main deck it, but that's like meta specific and not necessarily, format specific. So,
but even then, if it's on the ladder, you can't sideboard it in. But
no, that's what I mean. Like you main deck it.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Then, and it does have the upside of like, at the very least, you're just playing a 39 card deck instead of a 40 card deck because it cantrips, right?
Yeah, it's cheap enough for that, but it's like bad Jack-o'-lantern. I'm not super interested. Wedding Invitation is 2 for an artifact. When it ETBs, draw a card. Sack it. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. If it's a vampire, it gains lifelink until end of turn.
Yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. Maybe this goes in your vampire deck. Maybe it doesn't. And the main land we wanted to look at is Evolving Wilds. Evolving Wilds is in the set. This is big news. This is important because this will, in theory, allow us to have some splashes, have some fixing. We're happy to have it in a 2-color deck, and we're thrilled to have it in any deck that wants to splash.
Yep. All good things.
All right. You want to take us through the white cards?
Love to take us through the white cards.
Okay.
All right, here we go. First up, we've got Adamant Will. 1 and a white for an instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 and gains indestructible until end of turn.
I'm not a huge fan of 2-mana combat tricks. I always like 1-mana combat tricks better, but this one does what I do want my combat trick to do, which is win me a combat / be a negate. So if you need one, put it in your deck. I'd imagine most decks aren't terribly interested in it, but I would think red and green-white would be a little more interested in this than the others usually. Flyers don't often need the combat tricks, for example. So that's kind of where I'm at on this. Looks like a playable combat trick.
Yeah, I agree. I love having at least one of these in most of my decks. Like, there's always a slot for a combat trick, unless I've got really good removal. I'm probably playing a combat trick as removal, and this is totally fine.
Yeah.
Angelic Quartermaster, 3 white for a creature, which is an Angel Soldier. I don't think Angels and Soldiers matter in this format. It's flying 3/3. Not too bad. When it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 other target creatures. So this is always a 3/3, but it gives you a nice little power toughness boost to some other creatures, plus the +1/+1 counter synergies.
I like this one. It is worth noting that it's worse on an empty board than something like Gavany Silversmith was, because it could put the counters on itself. Now, that's not to say these counters can't still get flying or trample or lifelink or something else. It's just where you put them. So 4 mana for like 5 power and toughness, 3 of which fly, is a good deal. It's just a question of, am I going to have a board when I cast this? I could see taking this as highly as 3rd. Like, the power is certainly here, and it's not unusual that you have a board. And the other thing that like it has going for it is by the time you're casting 5 drops, sometimes your 2-drop isn't really doing anything anymore. And now you've made that 2/1 into a 3/2 that, suddenly has an attack or a block that it didn't have before.
Yeah, I think Yeah, and I think I really like this for curve out purposes too, where on the play there's a lot of times where you're going to go, 3-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, skip a turn, like play another 3-drop, then play this, and all of a sudden like both of your 3-drops can just attack through whatever your opponent has, and they have no good blocks. Like that happens a lot with cards like this. So I think that's why I like this as a curve topper, and just the 3/3 flying, like, sometimes that can end a game. So yeah, I'm high on this one. It's probably third pick. I don't think it's quite as good as the gold cards. Like, if I'm first picking this out of a pack, I'm probably pretty sad. But if I go like a white rare into this pack too, like pick two, I'm probably taking this pick too, because I think it's good.
Yeah, and it's worth noting just for the viewers that like gold cards are inherently going to be more powerful because they're more restrictive, right? They're harder to cast, and when you take them, you're taking more of a gamble. So I'm not saying it's there on power level with those, but it's about where I'd want to take it because I'd be more often able to play it. Anyway, let's look at Arm the Cathars.
Let's move on. Arm the Cathars, 1 white for a sorcery. Till end of turn, you can target creature gets +3/+3, and then up to one other target creature gets +2/+2, and another one gets +1/+1, and they all gain vigilance till end of turn.
So I can see why this isn't a common, given that it's powerful, but it's not tricky. This is a sorcery. You're doing this on your turn, then you're attacking with them. That's why they get the vigilance, and you may be enabling a finishing move. Like, this is kind of giving you the promise of overrun, but also the backup plan of I'm going to be able to block on the way back. I think there's a deck that's going to want this. I think it's red-white, potentially green-white. Green-white could take advantage of some of the training opportunities, and red-white would just be trying to finish the game with it. And I like that you can block. This doesn't look like a card I'd particularly love. I don't think I'd be looking to take it much higher than 7th.
Yep.
But if I'm in red, green, or red, white, I think I might grab one when I saw it there and then be like, okay, we got our finishing move.
Yeah, when I first read it, it looked like a more complicated lava axe to me.
Yeah.
But like the vigilance, I think, kind of separates it from a lava axe. I think in a lot of cases, what's going to end up happening with this is you're going to have a flyer and you need to do like 5 to the face, and then your opponent has to block a couple of things and either like make bad blocks or trade. And if that's what you're looking for in your aggressive deck, then that's totally fine. But I until proven otherwise, I'm going to look at this as a lava axe, I think.
That's a fair assessment too.
Yeah. Bride's Gown, not Grown. Bride's Grown, 1 and a white for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+0. It gets an additional +0/+2 and has first strike as long as an equipment named Groom's Finery is attached to a creature you control. Note that it doesn't have to be another creature, so you can wear the Bride's Gown and the Groom's Finery on the same creature, and it works. And it's got equip 2. So basically equip 2 for +2/+0.
Yeah, this is pretty bad unless we get the other one, right?
Yeah. And I don't know that I'm willing to gamble on that.
Yeah, this is interesting. I don't like this. I can see, even if you have both of them in the same deck, you have to draw them. And if you do, you're just like, I got there. Screw you, you're losing.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to check. I think Groom's Finery is a black card, which makes it even harder because now you've got to be specifically white-black.
So this is a secret gold card that doesn't do anything unless I draft another card to go with it and then draw both of them.
Yeah, and they're both uncommon.
Yeah, I'm never picking this.
Fart noise.
Yeah, not that it won't do work if you get it. It's just I'm never going to be that willing to try this. If you see this wheeling and you're in white and could be open to black, by all means take it. But somebody's going to see it and be like, we're going to do it, and pick it third, and I'll just never get to play the damn thing.
Yeah, I wonder if, like, I'd be interested to see if these wheel, and if you could, like, pick one, you note that Bride's Gown is in the pack, and then, like, pick 2, you see Groom's Finery, and you're like, ooh, I'm going to take it and anticipate the gown wheeling. Like, some formats you can do that, and you're like, I know this card is going to wheel, and I'm going to speculate on it. But I think that's some pretty advanced drafting right there.
Yeah, and then all you need is somebody in the pod to be like, oh, vault progress, and you're done.
Yeah, exactly. Same. Yeah. Okay, Circle of Confinement, 1 and a white for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, exile target creature an opponent controls with mana value 3 or less until this leaves the battlefield, with the additional ability of whenever an opponent casts a vampire spell with the same name as the card exiled, you gain 2 life. So it's really just can't remember what that card was. Portable Hole? No, yeah, Portable Hole, kind of.
Yeah, I think Portable Hole was 1 or 2. I can't quite remember.
Yeah.
So moving us to 3 is certainly not bad. The trinket text is there, like, bingo card if you get it. This looks okay to me. I don't know that I'm super excited to pick it because it's not killing everything, but it's killing a lot of things. So I'm probably looking at 5th for this. I imagine it'll be good against other white decks that are doing disturb things, because like exiling blue-white disturb cards seems pretty good to me.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of like 2-drops that like wearing auras we'll find, and this obviously deals with them. It kind of reminds me of, it takes the role of like a deadweight in your deck, or like it's a 2-drop, right? Like you put this in your 2-drop spot and you just accept the fact that it's trading with another 2-drop.
Yeah, agree. That's a good way to think of it. It's not removal, it's a premium 2-drop.
Yeah. Dawnheart Geist, 1 and a white for a creature spirit warlock. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you gain 2 life, and it's a 1/3.
I mean, I'm usually pretty happy with 1/3s for 2. And we're going to be Are we going to be casting a lot? Yeah, we're casting them from the graveyard. So, sure, I can get behind this. I like this a lot better than the Lunarch Veteran, which everybody seemed to just like absolutely swoon for. But I think I can dig this.
Yeah, I don't think I'm picking it highly, but like, as an uncommon, if it's sitting there like 7th pick.
7th pick, you take it and say blue-white's open. I think you're probably going to need to value it around 5th if you want to get any of them. And I like this one. It comes down.
No reason to get in there?
No, it's not. But it's kind of like a synergy piece once you're there. And like every time you cast a disturb creature, like it's also a decent platform to augment. It's a good blocker early. I've already seen a bunch of 2/2s and 2/1s. I peeked at some of the commons. So I think it'll block some relevant stuff and then be a platform you can build off of if you need it.
Yeah, kind of reminds me of Boarded Windows in a way. You're going to gain some life over the course of the game. You're trying to set up your long game.
Yeah, except this one's actually delivering on the promise that Bordering Windows could never quite connect with.
Yeah, absolutely, right?
This can also attack.
For 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Distracting Geist, 2 and a white for a creature spirit. It's a 2/1. Also, we're continuing to play the game, does this fly or not? Dawnheart Geist does not fly. Distracting Geist does not fly. So it's a 2/1. Whenever it attacks, tap target creature defending player controls, and it has Disturb 5, 4 and a white, for Clever Distraction, which has the same effect. So you enchant a creature. Whenever this creature attacks, tap target creature defending player controls. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the Elk from Theros, the like 4 and a white bestow, where you put it on something and then every time you attack, to tap something down.
Yeah, and we had an Elk in one of the core sets recently that just did that. I probably only remember that because I've been doing the core set drafts on Arena. This is an understated creature, and that is a powerful effect. And you're kind of okay like trading this creature off because you're just going to cast it back again at some point. This looks like a card I'll play. It is worth noting it's often going to suicide with the attack going. So this almost looks like an aggro card. So I wonder if this is like secretly a red-white card rather than blue-white.
That's an interesting observation. I didn't really think about that one. Like red-white's going to snap this up.
Yeah, and I think some blue-white players will put it in their deck, but aren't you kind of going in the air, or I don't know. This doesn't look like it plays like I expected these disturb cards to roll, because this guy, like the Elk that had this ability was a 4-mana 3/3. Like that's probably going to trade with something. And then we saw Stanley, Territorial Hammerskull. That was a 2/3. That's going to have good attacks, but like a Wet Fart can block this and trade with it. So just bear that in mind when you're taking it. I think I could still see taking it highly and playing it. So potentially as highly as 5th, I just think it goes in more aggressive decks.
Yeah, I think if there's a lot of flyers in your blue-white deck, then this goes, like you could put this on a flyer and then you can attack in without risk.
But
right?
flyers don't need to get blockers out of the way, generally speaking.
No, but you can get them out of the way for your ground attackers, right? So your opponent's got a couple of 3/3s, and you've got a 4/4 and a 2/1 flyer that's carrying this aura, right? You can slam your 2/1 flyer in, tap something down, and get through with your 4/4. That's kind of the play pattern that I'm picturing in blue-white. But I agree with you. I think it's more of a red-white card.
Okay.
But I think you still play it in your blue-white deck, especially if you care about auras, because like being able to put this on something late game, for 5 mana is probably pretty good. Like you're gonna have something to put this on.
Yeah,
that you
sure.
don't want to like run into a blocker. You're gonna have some flyers.
Agree.
Okay.
And green white could even potentially mill it. Like there's some places for it.
Yeah. All right. Drog Skull Infantry is 1 and a white for a Spirit Soldier 2/2. 2 mana 2/2 with Disturb 3 and a white. And the upside or the flip side is enchanted creature gets +2/+2.
They have finally found an aura that gives +2/+2 that I'm happy to play.
Yeah, I'm sold.
Because if my 2/2 dies into it and then I can put it on something else, that's just great. This appears to be, I don't know about premium common, but it's looking pretty dang good. And as far as, and I say premium common because what deck wants this, Dave?
Anybody playing white?
Exactly. That's it. So this isn't, okay, we have to put this in the Disturb deck or we have to pair this with green. This is just play the damn card, it's good. So this looks like a premium white common to me.
Yeah, exactly. You're happy to trade this off. You're happy to put things on this, right? Like it does something late game. Yeah, I'm all about this. If my 2-drop spot in white is like 4 of these, I'm over the moon.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. Estwald Shieldbreaker, 3 and a white for a 4/2. Whenever it attacks, you may pay 1. If you do, it gains indestructible until end of turn.
Oh man, that's a common?
I'm the Juggernaut. This is attacking every turn.
That's kind of miserable. I think this looks okay. You need to be aggressive. Yep. It trades down on blocks. I don't like that. So is this secretly a red-white card?
No, I think it's a Naya card. Because I think
you could use it with
this
training
goes really
too.
well with training. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is going to be really annoying.
It's a common that demands removal or that you be ahead. So your options are race it or have a 5 toughness creature.
Yep.
Yeah, so I don't think that makes it necessarily a premium card, but I do think it does what you were saying, where this is probably a Naya card, and that's where you want to play it. You need to be being aggressive. I don't like this in anything that's trying to win with like evasion, because you may need to start blocking. And this, like, in an evasion deck is a problem because you're going to have to pay mana while they chump block it functionally, and then could potentially raise your flyers. It is very cheap to use. I like that. But it's also like sorely understated as a 4/2.
Dies to shock.
I mean,
unfortunately,
if this card was an uncommon, I'd believe it.
Yeah, exactly, right? Or like 1 and a white, really kind of tax you on attacks.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I think I should be able to find 1 to 2, like a slot for 1 to 2 of these in my red green or green white decks.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think both of those colors would want it. Got a question in chat. We're not making a tier list. We're not making a pick order. What we're doing is teaching you card evaluation and helping you hopefully get an early lead on what decks each of these commons slot into. We're talking about commons and uncommons right now.
All right. Fierce Retribution, 1 and a white for an instant. And this is our first instance of Kicker. So Kicker's back, and it's great. I love Kicker. So this has got Kicker, which is 4 generic. So if you pay the regular cost, you get to destroy target attacking creature, and the kicker cost, if you pay the kicker cost, you just get to just destroy target creature. So it's 2 mana, destroy target attacking creature, or 6 mana, destroy target creature in white at instant speed. Sorry, that's it's Cleave. Cleave is our new mechanic.
And it's totally not Kicker, as Dave has pointed out here. That's one of your 12 Kicker jokes that you're allowed today, sir.
Okay, I'm marking it off.
Thank you. We've seen various sorts of instant speed assassinate variants in white over the course of time. It is worth noting that you have to leave this one up, right? Like, I can't do this on my turn. It's not destroy target tapped creature. It's attacking creature. Again, I think this is a card that's likely to go into every white deck. There's going to be times where you get attacked. This looks like our common white removal spell, and it will certainly get the job done. I understand removal is worse when everything is coming back out of the graveyard, et cetera, but you can't play a deck with no interaction in Modern Magic and expect to do anything. Interestingly, it can't kill an Estwall Shieldbreaker, but there you go. I think this goes in every white deck. I think it'll be better in decks that are looking to race or win with evasion.
Yeah, no, this will kill a Shieldbreaker. You have to do it in response to the
because they can't pay one again. Okay.
Yeah, they can only just do it the once, right?
Okay.
So you can't, like, there are ways to kill the Shield Basher. I mean, it's Divine Arrow.
Yeah.
Right? And you would play 1 to 2 Divine Arrows. The cleave upside is actually pretty decent.
Super nice. 6 mana instant speed, it's dead.
Yeah, in white is pretty, like, that's a pretty nice treat. So I kind of like this. I'm not going to pick like 4 of them, but there's certainly a slot for 1 to 2 of them in my deck, I think.
Yeah, and I do think it's every white deck wants this one.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, Fleeting Spirit, 1 and a white for a spirit, doesn't fly. It's a 3/1, and it has 2 abilities on it. One is for white and exile 3 cards from your graveyard. Fleeting Spirit gains first strike until end of turn. The other one is discard a card, exile Fleeting Spirit, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. I think the joke here is that it's Baneslayer Angel, by way of proxy via Hallowed Shieldblade. No, is that the one? The 3/1 Indestructible?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? Okay.
Yeah. It's not that card, but it will have some play patterns that will make it feel like that. Like, you need to block this and kill it, and that's hard to do because it kind of like wants to pretend it's a 3/1 first strike, which it isn't, but it's close to it. And it would dodge removal spells. So this is another card that looks like it will be happier in aggressive white decks, but I think any white deck would be happy to play this as their 2-drop.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to pick it as highly as I would the season. Is it Hollowed Season Blade?
Seasoned Hollow Blade.
Seasoned Hollow Blade. That's what it was. Right. Thank you. Because it doesn't, like, if I'm discarding a card to protect it, it doesn't trade. It disappears and then comes back, which is not the best, right?
But you're really only protecting it from removal. Like, you wouldn't do that in combat.
Yeah, exactly. That doesn't make sense. Unless, I guess, you're going to block and fog. Like, discard a land to block and fog. I guess you could do that.
But you're
really
losing.
It's just a 3/1.
Yeah.
It's a 3/1 with threat of activation on the attack side. And there's going to be things in your graveyard. So it's fine. Not the highest pick for me, but it's fine.
I could see it going as high as 5th.
That's fair. Probably not excited to pick it that highly, but
same.
If I'm red-white, I'll pick it pretty high. I'd probably rather the 2/2 aura.
In some decks, yeah, I could see that. But if you're getting aggressive, I think you're way more interested in this. It's interesting that it will be like trying to eat cards in your graveyard, and you can cast some of the cards in your graveyard. So there's a little bit of tension there. Like, there may be times where your opponent attacks you with this, and they have, a land and 2 disturbed cards in the graveyard, and you're like, sure, eat my dude, exile him.
I'll eat those disturbed cards. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Griff Rider, 2 and a white for a human knight, 2/1. This one has flying.
Okay.
God, you know what? I wish that, like, the flying cards had, like, a bit of a different border on them so that the art didn't matter, because it looks like it's very clearly on the ground in this picture. Anyway, it's a 2/1 with flying and training. So training is like reverse mentor. Whenever this creature attacks with another creature that has greater power, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So this creature is not doing the training. This creature is receiving the training.
Yeah. And that does make it, like, I suppose it's a bit esoteric, but it's worse than Mentor because you can't really decide where the counters go. But it is a bit cleaner. This card looks fine. I imagine any white deck will be happy to play this. You're going to need 3 drops. It doesn't block particularly well, and its stats seem like it's a little off unless we're going Air Force, which are sometimes underpowered. But, like, if you can get this to a 3/2, it's obviously great.
Yeah.
What white deck doesn't want this?
On attacks. What was that? Sorry.
What white deck doesn't want this?
Doesn't want this? Probably none of them. I think if you're playing white, you would probably put this in your 3-drop spot.
But I don't think it's going to be a 3/2 on attacks until turn 5.
I mean, I think if you're on the play, it's probably a 3/2 on turn.
Well, it has to have greater power, right?
Oh yeah, I guess if you have like a 3/1, no, yeah, there's not a lot of 3 power 2 drops, right? I guess it's just the one. Yeah, you're probably right. It's probably not till turn 5.
Yeah, so I don't think this is amazing, but I think it's a Windrake with upside.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I guess if you're playing green-white, this is probably more reliably a 3/2 on its first attack.
I don't know what an L-plate is, Zombub.
Okay.
I think I'm honing in on that green and blue want this. Maybe red does too? I don't know. I just, like, I don't know. 2/1 flyer, unimpressive. 3/2 flyer on turn 5. That's okay.
It does get out of control if you can't, if like it could potentially snowball.
It could, but I also think it's like, that's why it's got the 1 toughness, is like, you've got 5 turns to deal with it snowballing, and if you couldn't deal with that, you were probably just going to die to a 2/1 flyer anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. It's fine filler, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, it's about where I'm at.
If I have 2 of these in my deck, like, I like Windrakes, or at least I used to. Maybe not so much anymore, but... All right, Griffwing Cavalry, 3 and a white for a 2/2 human knight, has flying, has training, and whenever it attacks, you may pay 1 and a white. If you do, target attacking creature without flying gains flying until end of turn. So you can pay 2 mana to jump things, which is relevant with training.
It is, and that means that this is going to turn into a threat relatively quickly. I feel like this one is going to be a 3/3 almost as soon as it can attack, as opposed to the previous one, which is only going to be able to do that if you have a 3/1. So I think I like this one a little better and would take it a little higher. I still want to be like 5th pick for this as an uncommon, but I dig it. Like, it's giving you a way to close out a game, specifically in green-white, but also in some others, and I feel like it will get Lorigin in charge relatively quickly.
Yeah, this plays really well with the red-white uncommon that we saw too, because now you're attacking all of a sudden with like 3 things that are all getting pumped, probably.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So like if you play this on like turn 6, turn 7, or sorry, if you play the red-white one, let's say you top deck it and you have this in play, all of a sudden you're attacking for like 8 in the air, probably, pretty easily.
Yeah, that's a little terrifying. I'm going to be looking for reach creatures here in a minute.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm probably with you. Like, this is a medium, like middle of the first pack, middle of the pack type pick. But I probably pick it higher if I know I'm these colors.
Yeah, agree.
You know, like pick 2, right? I would probably prioritize one of these.
Yeah, and it is Screaming Naya, isn't it?
It is.
Okay.
Definitely. So I think we're looking at like 3 color, like, you know, overlapping archetypes, right?
Which is a good thing, right? Because that means I can have some crossover with my different mechanics, and I like that.
Yep. All right. Heron of Hope, 3 and a white for a 2/3 flyer. Lots of flyers now. Excellent. If you would gain life, you gain that much life plus 1 instead, and you can pay 1 and a white to give it lifelink until end of turn.
This looks like a black-white gold card.
It does look like a black-white-gold card, and not that bad either.
No.
Like for a 4-drop filler common, you do a lot worse.
Yeah, I think you'd be happy with it there. I think you might sometimes play it in blue, where you're like, I'm going to augment this, and I'm just generally interested in flyers, and I think we're probably not interested in it in red or green.
Yeah. I think if you have the gold black-white card, I think this goes up in value because being able to like reliably activate
life gain is a big deal.
Life gain, I think, would be pretty important. And you know, this thing gains 3 life. That's not nothing.
That's a significant amount of life. Like, it's a 5-point life swing if you connect with it. Like, that's a big deal. Yeah. It's hard to race.
But I mean, I don't want like 4 of those either. So
agree.
All right, Heron Blessed Geist. I hope you have a blessed day. 4 and a white for a 3/3 flying spirit, another flying, with the ability 3 and a white. Exile this from your graveyard. Create 2 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying. Activate only if you control an enchantment and only as a sorcery.
So this is mostly a blue-white card, but
Yes.
you could sort of see it as white-green if you had some of the mill cards that were supposed to go in the blue-green deck.
Yep.
Because I don't want to cast this for 5 mana. I want it to go in my graveyard and late game just be like, yo, here's some stuff. But I guess it is a playable card. And we've seen 5 mana 3/3 flyers be okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather the uncommon 3/3 flyer that distributes +1/+1 counters, but just like being able to get a second card off of your card, you know what I mean? Like,
it's a big deal.
It's a big deal. And if your opponent's like low on life and they kill this and then you activate it the next turn, it's like they're still probably in trouble unless they have some way to deal with 1/1 flyers.
Yeah, it really feels like a blue-white card to me.
Yeah, I think you're right. But that being said, it's, you know, if you end up with 1 or 2 of these in your deck, it's not the worst. You could do worse in your 5-drop spot.
I agree. Before we do the next one, I need about 2 minutes. Is that cool?
Deal. I will get more coffee.
Okay, I'll be right back, y'all.
Should we continue? Or are we good? Or did we have any revelations while we were washing?
No, I think that's about it. Let's party.
All right. Kindly Ancestor 2 and a white for a 2/3 does not fly. 2/3 with lifelink, and it has Disturb 1 and a white. Let me guess. Drumroll, please. It gives it lifelink. Enchanted creature has lifelink.
What's not to like about this? This looks like a great common that would just go in any white deck.
Yeah, I agree. Probably goes pretty well in black-white, but obviously the blue-white really cares about these cards too. So it's like an Esper card.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's an Esper card predominantly because you're going to be interested in gaining life in black-white, and throwing this on a flyer late game, as well as just having the Disturb card, looks pretty good in blue-white. And I'd imagine you'd want something with higher power than toughness in the Naya colors, so that you're triggering your training stuff. So good catch, an interesting card, but I think a good one.
Yeah, if I had one, like, I'm not going to be sad about having one of these in my spot. So,
agree.
All right, Militia Rallier, 2 and a white for a 3/3. What? That's interesting. Except it can't attack alone, which is a little disappointing. But whenever it attacks, untap target creature.
I mean,
Frogurt is also cursed. Oh, sorry, you probably don't get that reference. You're in on this one? Yeah, I think so too. Should be pretty easy to have things to attack with, and if it's just a 3/3 blocker, that's totally fine.
yeah, like if you don't have stuff to attack, you probably need a blocker, right? And this is a pretty good one. So I think this can go in any white deck. The decks that are looking to hold the ground will be happy to have it. It's high power creature for your training. Like, this just looks, and it's giving something vigilance. This is kind of bonkers.
Yeah, it's really good training enabler too because of the 3 power.
Yeah, I dig it.
So a lot of the things that have training that we've seen so far have 2 power to start.
Yeah. My challenge with this one is what white deck doesn't want it, and I don't see any.
Blue-white probably wants Disturb cards in that 3-drop spot instead.
Probably, but I think they'd be all right with this. You would still play
1 of these or 2 of these if you had to, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in.
Yeah, I'm in on this one.
All right, Nebelgast Beguilier. I don't know how to pronounce that word.
Beguilier, it's French.
Beguilier. I've only ever heard it. I've never seen it written out.
Beguiler.
Sorry, I've only ever seen it written out. I've never heard it.
Beguiler.
Bugler? 4 and a white for a 2/5. Spirit. Doesn't fly. God, I hate this. Like, spirits just look like they fly.
They do.
Anyway, it's a 2/5, and it has the ability, a single white, and tap target creature.
So I think this is actually not bad. I think a lot of people are going to look at it and say, oh my God, that's a 5-drop. It's too expensive. It's understated, blah, 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 blah. And like in the past, we've had things like the Trapper from the last set that sure, you could play it on turn 1, but you weren't activating it until late game anyway. So getting the discount on this, I think, is a little bit better for me, and the body is able to block. I don't think this card is absurd. I don't think you can play a million 5-drops in most formats. But this looks like something I wouldn't be unhappy to have one of in, honestly, a lot of different white decks, but probably blue-white is the most interested in it, and that I can get a rage creature out of the way and start getting in with my flyers, and I've got a good ground blocker while I'm doing it. So I think it's just a more defensive version of the Trapper from the last set, and I'm not embarrassed to play it.
Yeah, like being able to block and not care is really refreshing on a card like this.
Yeah.
I think where the cheap tappers shine is when you don't curve out perfectly, like you miss turn 3 or you miss turn 4. It's something to do and gain a little bit of value off of, right? Like you're on the draw with a Trapper, you miss a 3-drop, but you have a 4-drop. You can tap down their attacker and not take any damage that turn.
Yeah,
I think that's the upside of the cheap ones. But you never block with it, and so that's kind of unfortunate. So like I like that blocking with this one. It is cheap, which is nice. Yeah, no, I'm in. I'll play like one of these. You can't win a game with like 4 of these in your deck. Like if you put 4 of these in your deck, I guess you can win the game now that I'm thinking about it. But like
your deck's probably not very good.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I guess my point is it's not a win con on its own. So you're gonna have to pair it with other win cons, but I mean that's limited, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah, agreed.
You just can't play 4 of these, I think. All right, Nurturing Presence, 1 and a white for an aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature has whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control this turn, or this creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And then when this enters the battlefield, you get a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying.
Okay, I was about to say this looks terrible. Why would you ever play it? And the spirit makes a little bit of sense if we understand that this is a blue-white gold card, and that's the only place we play it. Because that's giving us a flying platform to put our other auras on, and it's maybe enabling an attack this turn that we didn't have previously. So I don't think I'm going to play this very often, but I think in blue-white you could probably use this. You'll also have some Aura Matters junk going on.
Man, don't play bad cards to make your good cards better.
You think it's just unplayable?
I think it might be pretty close. It's a temporary +1/+1.
And you get a spirit.
And you get a spirit, so you're paying 2 mana for a 1/1 spirit. It's like sorcery speed. Give a creature +1/+1 and make a 1/1.
It is, with the upside of if they don't then kill it every time we're casting creatures and like tapping out for it, it's going to force through more damage. So don't think of this on your 2-drop. Think of this on a flyer.
Yeah, but I could also just put like a disturbed +2/+2 on that flyer and probably get the same amount of value off of it. And if you're putting it on a flyer, you don't need the 1/1 spirit that this makes. Like I don't
like this card either.
Gotta be deep. I think you got to be deep in Aura's Matters to play these in your deck, like really deep. Like if you have 3 of the gold cards in blue-white, sure, play as many of these as you want. Now you've doubled your Murmuring Mystics. Like cool. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna watch other people do it first. How about that?
Okay. If there's a spot for this card, it's in blue-white. That's all I'm getting at.
Yeah, and all the other ones, all the good ones, like are disturb, like things you get to block with. Or yeah, whatever. It's fine. All right. All in block escort is a single white for a 1/1 with vigilance. It's a human cleric. I guess there's some human matters stuff that I forgot to mention. We'll see in a little bit here. Anyway, you can sacrifice this. Target creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it gains lifelink and indestructible until end of turn. It's kind of neat.
It's kind of neat, but I'm never going to get to play with this card. I would have to see it late in pack 3 after I'm already in a a training deck. Because I just don't value the 1/1.
Would you take it early in pack 3 if you knew you were green-white?
Probably still not.
Interesting, because it kind of reminds me of like if you're heavy +1, it's like you're heavy green-white. Reminds me of the dog that you sacrifice to give something indestructible.
Yeah, and that thing was great. And that's my concern, is that it just won't do that very often. And I don't value the 1/1. Like, make this a 2/2, and I'm willing to pick it a good bit higher.
Yeah.
I just don't know what I'm supposed to do with the 1-mana 1/1 vigilance. Like, that's the most worthless thing to put vigilance on.
Yeah, I wonder.
There was a hound that was a
there's
1/1.
A spot for this.
There was a hound that was a 1/1 Tommy that you sacrificed, and it was good too.
Yeah, what was the...
I don't remember it, but it doesn't matter. Like, this card would be fine if
Yeah.
it was just target creature gains indestructible and lifelink. I could sort of see playing one. Even then, I'm not like over the moon about it. So for me, I'm probably looking to wheel this if at all.
Yeah, I don't think it'll ever wheel.
Yeah, it's why I'm like I'm never going to get to play with it.
Yeah, I'll definitely pick it if I'm heavy training. I guess it plays really well with training too, because
How?
you can like... Well, no, I guess the thing that's being trained has the +1/+1 counter.
Yeah,
Yeah, you just need like a bunch of +1/+1 counters.
you need more than I'm ever going to get.
Yeah, maybe. Hey, okay. Panicked Bystander, 1 and a white for a 2/2. Whenever it or another creature you control dies, you gain 1 life. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, transform Panicked Bystander into Cackling Culprit. With the same ability, whenever it or another creature you control dies, you gain 1 life. And then it has the activated ability, 1 and a white. It gains Death Touch until end of turn. And it's a 3/5 on the backside. That's pretty interesting.
I think so. And they've conveniently showed us that this is indeed a black, white, gold card.
Yes.
You're not able to gain enough life through the bystander on its own, generally speaking, to be able to transform it. That said, in black, white, you probably have other ways to pull it off and could make this happen. So I think I like this highly as a black, white, gold card because 3/5 Death Touch is a house. So obviously it's a synergy card. We're going to have to grade it acceptably. I could see taking it as high as 5th.
Yeah, I think I'm about there too. It's below the gold cards. Pretty close to the top of just the white uncommon so far.
Okay.
It should be pretty easy to flip this in general, though.
I don't think so.
Not like I think if you're just playing white, you're probably gonna have some incidental lifelink, even if you're not white black. But
I'm not looking for much of it, but I mean, sure, it's possible, but it's also a 2-drop. Like I'm gonna have to trade it off some amount of the time.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay. Parish Blade Trainee, 1 and a white for a 1/2 with training. And when it dies, it puts its +1/+1 counter on target creature you control.
Oh God, this card sucks.
Sucks is that like you're gonna hate playing against it, or do you just think it sucks?
I'm gonna hate playing against it.
Like yeah, okay, we're on the same page.
Because I don't necessarily want to play it, but there's going to be somebody that has a deck with this that curves it out properly and just annihilates me with it, and there's nothing I can do about it. So let's look at this from a state of what deck wants it. It looks like red and green would be particularly interested in this. And the idea is you want to make a snowball-y deck. So you're kind of happy attacking him with creatures, getting them killed, using some combat tricks just to get a few counters on this so that when it does finally die, you're able to move those counters onto something else and continue attacking. The danger with a card like this is that it practically can't block. So it's really important if you're building this deck that you go all in on aggression and make sure you're never going to have to block. Because if you ever get to the point where you would want to block, you've already lost the game. So I think this is really a red, white, gold card that you could also play in green.
I think I'm on board for that. Seeing all the training, makes combat tricks more appealing.
Agree.
Right, because you're going to be throwing your creatures away. Like this 1/2 doesn't attack very well. It attacks as a 2/3 usually. Like when you attack the first time with it, let's say, or not necessarily the first time, but like when you're able to attack with it the first time after your opponent plays a 2-drop themselves. And being able to just like throw your training creatures away with combat trick backup, this could be a nightmare to block. And then they get your blocker out of the way, and now they can just attack with impunity. Like, yeah, that could be pretty snowball-y.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, training is looking to snowball and just kill you.
Yeah, so I think I'm picturing what a good training deck looks like, and I see like 3 Adamant Wills in a good training deck. I'm serious.
That one's a bit much for me, but you could be right.
I mean, +2/+2 indestructible on attacks. You just snowball into like two creatures that train each other eventually. I guess they don't train each other. They can't even alternate. But if you have like 2 of these and then like a hasty red creature with Adamant Will backup, like that's ridiculous.
There'll be times where you cast Adamant Will pre-combat and then attack.
Oh my god, can you imagine?
Yeah, it's going to happen.
All right, Piercing Light is a single white for an instant. It deals 2 damage to target attacking or blocking creature, and you get to scry 1.
Okay, so if you have this, the very first turn they attack with the Perish Blade trainee, in response,
you get it.
Yeah. This looks mostly like Shock, although as training is going, it like that's going to get scaled out pretty quickly. I don't think I'm super happy to play this, but I could see fitting one in some white decks.
Yeah, I mean, I'd just rather play the Cleave card.
Yeah, every time if you have the opportunity to get it. And generally speaking, you might rather just play a 2-mana 2/2.
Yeah.
It's worth having. It's worth noting that if you have something like this in your sideboard and you're going against a bunch of training stuff, you could bring it in to try to get them. Like there's some cards that this would be good against from the sideboard, but I don't think I really want it.
No, I don't. I think there's just better cards that I should be able to get because they're all so commons.
Yeah, I think so too, but I could see some decks playing this, but I don't think it's a gold card. I think it's just like an okay playable.
Agreed. Okay. Radiant Grace is a single white for an aura. Enchanted creature gets +1/+0 and has vigilance. And then when the enchanted creature dies, so not when the aura goes to the graveyard, the creature has to die. It comes back transformed to enchant player. Creatures enchanted player controls enter the battlefield tapped. And you got to be aggro for that one.
Yeah, it's weird because this is kind of 2 effects that I'm not really that interested in stapled together.
I think it's a red-white card.
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, but the vigilance doesn't really matter there. And you could play this in blue-white too with the idea that like you have enough aura payoff stuff. So let's call it a Jeskai card, but I don't think it's a particularly powerful one. I can't envision me taking this higher than 7th.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. The backside really only matters when you're when you're aggressive.
Yeah. Or like that can also be the same thing when you have a bunch of flyers and maybe they're looking to get down a reach blocker or something to try to like stop things. Like,
yeah, I'm probably out on this card. I probably never cast it.
I don't think that I will either. But if we were going to, I think red-white would be happiest and blue would be second.
Okay. Resistance Squad 2 and a white for a 3/2 human soldier. When it enters the battlefield, if you control another human, draw a card.
Seems like there've been a decent amount of humans in white, probably a lot in green as well, and some in red. Yeah. So, Naya value uncommon?
Yeah, I think so.
Not particularly powerful.
No, and I don't think like this probably could have been a common and been fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'll take it and play it, but it's not like a reason for me to be white or anything like that.
Yeah, this is another one I can't see taking higher than 7th, but I'd certainly play it.
I guess the 3 power helps with training.
It does, but it's a lot like Search Party Captain to me. Like the stats are a little bit better. It's not quite as embarrassing to play out naked, but like usually Search Party Captain was, 3 mana for a 2/2 draw card. It's a little bit better than that, but you've got to work a little bit to enable this too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fine.
It's fine.
I'm not excited. I'm not excited about this. It's like, yeah, it's probably like 7th or something. Or if I'm like pack 2 and I'm looking to fill up my curve, I could do worse. Sanctify, 1 and a white for a sorcery, destroy target artifact or enchantment, you gain 3 life. It's really mostly destroy target enchantment, you gain 3 life.
Yeah, that's what I would think after looking through the artifacts. And I don't think we're main decking this, even though there's an aura theme. But I imagine I'd be quite happy to have one in my size board.
I'd rather kill the creature than kill the aura most of the time, I think.
Yeah, that's fair because they're disturbed. So even then, we're not super high on this.
Yeah.
So medium sideboard, I guess.
I guess exile doesn't matter because the disturb goes away when it leaves the battlefield already.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just pure sideboard, whatever. All right. Sigarda's Imprisonment, 2 and a white for an aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature can't attack or block with the activated ability. 4 and a white, exile enchanted creature, create a blood token. Not neat.
Okay, so white's got like actively good removal.
Yeah, that's pretty decent. like being able to like get a blood token off of it later.
That's cool as hell. Yeah, this is great. This goes in every white deck and is a high pick.
Yeah, not bad. I probably want a good mix of these and the cleave card.
I think you take all of the. I think if I have the opportunity to get 5 of these and none of the cleaves, I'm good with that.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I mean, that's true, and like I know the meme is like passive isn't very good and whatever. Like, you know, exploit is a thing, and you know we joke about it, but yes, like you could enchant something and then your opponent can still get value off of it. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, that is what it is. That'll pop up, but nonetheless, this is premium removal.
All right, Supernatural Rescue, 3 and a white for another aura. Well, like, are they just like all grouped together? We had all of our flyers grouped together, and now we have all the auras, it seems like. This spell has flash as long as you control a spirit. I think all the Disturb cards were spirits. When you cast the spell, tap up to 2 target creatures you don't control. Enchant creature you control. Enchanted creature gets +1/+2.
Okay, there's a lot of crap going on here. So
there's a lot to unpack, yeah.
I can flash it in if I have a spirit. It taps down 2 things. One of my dudes gets +1/+2. So I can use this as a combat trick that sticks around. I can clear out blockers, and I can maybe fog an attack. That's a lot of options on a very flexible card, and I don't think I want any of them.
It's too expensive.
Yeah.
So I guess if you're super deep on like Auras Matter, but really like the only Auras Matter card we've seen so far is the gold card, right?
Yeah, and there's better auras than this.
Yeah, I'm probably out.
Yeah. It's doing a lot of things. Like it's something you'd want to play defensively, but / offensively / you could win a game with this. Like this has falter. I'm saying I don't want to play it. If I did, it would go in the Jeskai colors. So like that's one thing I still want to identify is like where would this card be good? I could see red-white using this to get blockers out of the way and killing somebody, and I could see blue-white having aura shenanigans or just like get a reach blocker out of the way and kill somebody with flyers.
Yeah, that's fair. There's a place for this, but it's not most of my decks, I would say. All right, Traveling Minister, a single white for a 1/1 human cleric, riding a cloud. It looks like, but not flying. Tap, target creature gets +1/+0 till end of turn. You gain 1 life. Activate only as a sorcery. So this is like your repeatable life gain if you really need it.
It is. It's a playable 1-drop, which we don't see all that much because it can give its 1 power to something else later, which is at least better than nothing. But I would guess that this is a secret black-white card because, again, that's the color pair that's interested in gaining life. You could probably also play it in Azorius and not be too disappointed with it, but I wouldn't be playing it very often.
Oh, the training is interesting. Yeah, no, buddy, I never thought about that. It does give you an extra oomph out of training.
It does, but the training stuff didn't look like it needed it that much.
Yeah, maybe not, hey?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I'm ever playing this outside of black-white.
Yeah, agree. That's where it goes.
Okay, that's fair. And I guess you really need the payoffs for it, too. Like, if I've got 2 of the black-white gold cards, I'll probably pick this pretty highly.
You won't need to. You'll still be wheeling it. You'll just play it at that point.
You're right. That's a better way to put it. I'll definitely put it in my deck at that point.
Yeah.
All right, Twinblade Geist. I think this is going to be the Disturb card I hate the most. 1 and a white for a 1/1 double strike. It is a Spirit Warrior. Has Disturb 2 and a white. Enchanted creature has double strike.
This is pretty good.
It's pretty good.
I think it obviously goes in any white deck. That makes it a pretty high pick. I would be interested in this as early as pick 3. And here's a big part of why. As a 2-drop, I'll get to see this card and play it quite often. It will always be able to block something. It's kind of going to block like it's a 2/1 in some cases. It takes augmentation well. It plays nicely with combat tricks. And then it dies into something I'm quite happy to augment my dudes with later. So this is just a good solid card. I think any deck would be interested in it. Kind of no matter what you're doing, just as long as you have planes in your deck.
Yep. I agree on all of that front. It's just a strictly better fencing ace. Unholy Officiant. Single white for a 1/2 vampire cleric. Has Vigilance. Your favorite combo, 1 power Vigilance. and has the ability 4 and a white, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature.
How good is this if it's a 2/1?
It's super. It's for like a single white, it's amazing.
Yeah.
For like a 2-drop, it's still pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is just bad though, right?
I don't think I'm playing this.
Yeah, I'm not sure that there actually is a deck that wants this one. So maybe there is one legitimate skill texture in the set, and it's this, because I'm not sure what the hell I'm supposed to do with it. I guess it's a platform for me to put disturb crap on, and then I can spend mana on it later.
Not even. Why? Why would you put disturb stuff on this? You have to invest so much mana to make this able to attack at the turn of the game that you have done it. Like that you have activated, right?
Yeah.
So if you do this on turn 5, you spend 5 mana, it's a 2/3, it's not attacking, and it's probably not blocking. Right?
But I mean, don't you like 11 mana 3/4s?
3/4s? The only place that I can see this being any good is if you have a bunch of the cards that care about when you put +1/+1 counters on things, and it's a repeatable +1/+1 counter effect. I think that's really deep.
Yeah,
I think that's really deep.
It's potentially too deep for me, but let's say potentially playable in Selesnya, but I would avoid this one.
Yeah, I'm out until proven wrong. All right, Valorous Stance, 1 and a white for an instant. Choose 1. Target creature gains indestructible. Destroy target creature with toughness 4 or greater.
We'll be able to use this as a removal spell a significant amount of the time. Training means that even some of the littler things, when you just look at a stat block, are eventually going to learn to love big butts. And who doesn't love being able to give a creature indestructible? It's a reprint. It was good every time we've seen it before. I expect it'll be good here, and I could see picking it as highly as 3rd.
Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable. I think 3rd is probably pretty generous. I'd probably pick it 5th.
That's fair. I like the flexibility. It's a combat trick and a removal spell, whichever, I suppose, or it's whichever one I need.
That's fair. Yeah, I think I'm a little lower on it, but that's fine. That's fine. It's okay to disagree. All right, our last white common and uncommon is Vampire Slayer. 1 and a white for a 2/2. Whenever Vampire Slayer deals damage to a vampire, destroy that creature. Why would I ever pick this when I can have the Disturb Spirit?
I mean, having one of these in your sideboard is neat if you go against a vampire deck that has big vampires. I might swap them in. It's kind of got like Vampire Death Touch, I guess. But yeah, it's filler common 2-drop. So I think that's the thing about.
We saw a similar card in Ixalan.
Dinosaur Hunter.
And that wasn't that great.
It wasn't, but I killed Colossal Dreadmauls with it every once in a while.
Yeah, that's true.
So, like, it can happen. If you need a 2-drop, this is one that you could get. I do think I'd rather have the other one. But I think it's worth noting that, like, Valorous Stance and this card are just cards you can put in any white deck. And, like, Valorous Stance is obviously better. The Vampire Slayer is not very good. But, like, you can just play these and they're fine. That makes the Vampire Slayer filler.
Yeah. It's filler. I don't want 4 of these. I'd rather 4 of the Disturb card. But I think the Disturb card is going to be like a high pick that like they're going to get spread around the table. So
yeah, agree.
Okay.
All right.
That's it for white. What do you think of white?
I like it so far. I like that we've got solid common removal spells in white. That makes me excited. I think the mechanics look fun. I think we've got some balanced creatures. I think we've got some powerful stuff. I dig it. This looks good to me. Yeah,
training so far looks a little underwhelming or hard to get going.
Yeah. Well, it's easy to get going. It's just like how do you have time to get it going?
Yeah, that's what I mean, right? Is it just looks like for an aggressive mechanic, it takes a few turns to ramp up, you know what I mean? But it's certainly snowbally. Like if you can get through those first couple of hits, it could be pretty tough to stop once it gets going. So momentum. Can we refer to momentum instead of tempo?
Yes, I like that plan.
Yes. Yeah, you require momentum to make training happen.
Okay, I think that's a good way to put it.
Okay. Do you want to do the blue cards?
Yeah, let's get in here. So Alchemist's Retrieval is blue for bounce one of your things, 1 in a blue for bounce anything.
There are 3 more white cards if you reload a page. Did we miss white cards?
I don't think so, Oberg.
There are missing set numbers in here. That is a good point. This is 43 and it jumps to like 47.
Yeah, so there must be. Yeah,
the rares. There's
Yeah.
rares in these spots, maybe.
Okay, that must be it. We're not doing rares in this set review.
No,
We're just looking to do uncommons and commons.
Welcoming Vampire and Voice of the Blessed. Oh, are they rares? Oh no, sorry, that's okay. Yeah, we're only doing commons and so if they're rares, then yeah, we're skipping them.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Alchemist Retrieval. Go ahead.
Well, I read it, but like it's unsummon if you're targeting your thing, and it's Geese Weave if you're targeting your opponent's thing.
Yeah, like 1 blue for bounce. Blech.
No.
Sorry.
Blue.
So it's only 1 blue. Sorry, my mistake. I'm thinking kicker. And that wasn't intended to be a kicker joke. You're right. It is only 1 and a blue.
Mark it off. You've only got 10 left.
Only 10 left.
So that's the thing to remember about Cleave. You're not adding it to the original cost. You're doing it instead of the original cost. But this is just 2 mana bounce your opponent's thing, 1 mana bounce your thing.
It's fine. There's gonna be like can't go overboard on them because you're down a card.
I definitely want one of these with all of the auras I've seen and crap and like White's premium removal spells in aura. I want one of these.
I guess it resets training too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll come up on it a little bit. I did think it was 1 Reddit, so
yeah,
that's probably why it's souring my taste.
And that would make it seem a little bit worse. But like, spoiler alert, there's going to be a green fight spell. Like, there's going to be combat tricks. We can find ways to get value off of this.
Okay, yeah, I'm up on it then. Yep. Nope. You're right. I'm wrong.
All right. I think every blue deck wants one. Let's party.
Yep. Let's party.
Blinding Geast is 2 and a blue for a 3/1 spirit. When it attacks target creature and opponent controls, get -2/-0 until end of turn. It has Disturb for 1 and a blue. Turns into an aura that does the same -2/-0 shenanigans.
I like this card. It's tough. Like, blue doesn't usually get 3-powered creatures this cheap. I kind of like this card.
I can dig it. Is there a particular...
Even if it's like a 3/1 defender that then like gets a little bit of value later. Like, you can like neuter a Death Touch creature. You can like neuter a flyer.
We've seen this effect before on a 2/1, and it wasn't great.
Like the -2/-0 on attacks.
Yeah, it was on a blue dude.
But it didn't come with the aura side though.
It didn't, and I like that this has flashback. I'm just wondering that like how useful is this? And I think not incredibly is the answer. A 3/2 I think I might have liked a little bit better. Because there's like the insect tokens we've already seen. I assume there's some X1 hate here and there. But this looks fine. This doesn't look like something any particular deck wants, but something that you would like play in some of your blue decks.
Yeah, I think that I think at its floor, it's a 3/1 that probably trades with an X2 on the other side, like on defense. And then you get to like take something else out of the game. So it's like you're trading your 3-drop for like your opponent's 2-drop and another 2-drop maybe.
I don't think it's that good.
I mean, I wouldn't be embarrassed to have one of these in my 3-drop spot.
Okay, I can go with you there.
Sure. Okay, let's do that then.
All right, so that'll take us to Biolume Egg, which is 2 and a blue for a 0/4 defender. ETB Scry 2. When you sacrifice the egg, return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. It flips into a Biolume Serpent, which is a 4/4, sack 2 islands. It can't be blocked. How are we sacrificing this, Dave?
Oh, geez. Exploit. Oh, my goodness. I'm in.
Yeah, this is just like good exploit fodder.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I probably take it higher than the blue-black zombie maker, because this just makes a 4/4 right away with your exploit stuff.
Yeah, and it gives you some scries. It's got some good value.
It's got really good value, and I kind of don't even really care about just throwing this in front of things.
Yeah,
because what are you gonna do? You're gonna use a combat trick to get rid of my 0/4 that like I might not even be able to turn into a 4/4 anytime soon. I've already got my value out of it if I scry 2 and gain a bunch of life off of it, and you use a removal spell on it.
Yeah, agree. I would caution you that this is basically a blue-black gold card. This needs to go into decks that have enough exploiting to make it work. So I could see picking it as high as third, but I probably wouldn't do that until we're in pack 2 or 3 where I already know that I can make this happen.
I'm gonna pick it like the scab. If I take it, I'm probably like looking to prioritize all the exploit cards and plant my flag.
But if they're not there, you're going to get off of it pretty quick, right?
Yeah. If it's not there, I'll get off. Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Chill of the Grave is 2 and a blue for an instant, costs 1 less if you control a zombie. Tap target creature, it doesn't untap during its controller's next untap spell. Draw a card.
It's really just 2 and a blue, tap target creature, draw a card.
Elaborate.
Sometimes you're gonna get the discount.
Yeah. We can look at it like that.
I mean, I guess if you're in like the spells matter stuff like side, you like these probably go up in value, which is funny because then you're probably casting it for full price a lot of the time. I'm not excited about this. There's probably a deck that wants this.
Yeah, I was just going to say, there's nothing bad to say about this card, but there's also just not really anything great to say about it. I think this looks like a playable you could put in a lot of decks. It's a spell for your spells matter deck, so it's probably something that'll wheel. It kind of reminds me of Neonate's Herpaderp from the last one, where like I ended up playing 2 copies of that sometimes, and it was okay.
Yeah. I guess there's a red. Every time you cast a spell, it gets like +2/+2 or something like that, which this could go really well with.
Yeah,
because you get the blockers out of the way, and you just like put your opponent under so much pressure.
And I can see justifying an inclusion for this in a lot of decks. I just can't see a reason to pick it highly and put it in a deck. So that's to me is like the definition of filler common.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
Cobbled Lancer is up next. It's blue for a 3/3. As an additional cost to cast this spell, exile a creature card from your graveyard. 3 and a blue, exile the Lancer from your graveyard, draw a card.
Neat.
Reminds me of some of the old scabs from the previous Innistrad sets.
Yeah, right. That's kind of cool. I kind of like this card, but like you just can't jam it in any deck. Surprisingly though, it is like a Sultai card, I think, because you can put it in the self-mill deck as well as the exploit deck, and I think it goes well in both.
Agree.
So and I don't think I'm picking this early, but I am picking this if I'm in these colors in like pack 2, pack 3.
I think that's a fair place to put it. Like if I see this 5th, I might go for it, but like if I'm in those Sultai colors, I might pick it earlier in pack 2 or 3. So I'm right there with you.
Okay, yeah. And like it's cool if it gets milled because you get to draw a card off of it, right? Like, yeah, like there's just a lot of little things that this is working. Just put it in like your 4-drop spot.
Yeah, and you're happy with it there too. So I think blue-green is really the happiest place for it, right? Because you could mill it or you could mill something to enable it. So that deck would be pretty happy with it. And the exploit one is the one off where it's like, okay, it's easy to get stuff in the graveyard, but it's a little harder than in blue-green.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Cradle of Safety is 1 in the blue for an aura with flash. Enchant a creature you control. When it enters the battle, enchanted creature gains hexproof until end of turn and +1/+1 permanently.
Yeah, it's like that Starlit Mantle or whatever it was from one of the Theros sets, right?
I don't remember that one, but I may not have played that set. It was basically the same
card. It was like target creature, like enchanted creature gets. I don't know if it was hexproof permanently or if it was hexproof till end of turn, but it was basically the same thing.
What do you think of it? Who wants it?
I think if you have any creatures that you're interested in protecting, like you're like, oh man, this really makes my bomb rare, like just that much more bomby. I usually played 1 Starlit Mantle or whatever it was called. I think goes up in the blue-white deck, but you probably play this if you have things that you're like, you know, my opponent's going to use removal on these, and I'd love to just have a negate that sticks around as +1/+1.
Yeah. I could see playing it. I could also see not playing it. Like there's an Aura Matters theme, so maybe it goes up a little bit there. It just looks like a weird negate to me. So I think this is fine. You could include it, but I probably wouldn't very often. Like Theros had even more reasons to be playing enchantments, presumably, than this set does.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Let's take a look at Cruel Witness, which is 2 blue for a 3/3 flyer. When you cast a non-creature spell, look at the top card of your graveyard of your library. You may put it into your graveyard.
Man, 4 mana 3/3 flyer just on the surface is not too bad.
I did like Snakeskin Veil. People are arguing with me, but it was 1 mana. Like one mana combat tricks I love. 2 mana combat tricks I'm Teferi meme. But I'm digging this one. Like this is just a 4 mana 3/3 flyer. That's a decent stat. You do need to be heavy blue, and it looks like it's trying to rep itself as a blue-red card where you're going to cast a lot of non-creature spells and kind of get the value. But I think you could put this anywhere and be relatively happy.
I mean, blue-white disturbs are non-creatures as well, right?
Fair enough.
They're
Okay.
auras. They're auras. So it's a Jeskai card, right?
Okay, yeah, let's put it there, Jeskai, because I don't think the other colors would be very interested in this.
Yeah, but you're not drawing the card, but Surveil's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Right? Especially if you're blue-white and you're putting disturb cards in your graveyard that you're like, I don't really need this as a creature, I'd rather as an aura.
Or just getting rid of a land when you've already got 5 in
Or just
play.
getting rid of the land. Like, you can get some value. And just having a 3/3 flyer 4 is pretty decent, I think. Yeah. I like this. Play a couple of them, maybe 1 or 2 of these. The blue might be hard, but
yeah, agree. But Jeskai is where it's at.
Jeskai.
Diver Scob is 3 blue for a 3/5 zombie with exploit. When it exploits a creature, target creature's owner puts it on the top or bottom of their library.
It just reads really weird, but basically you target an opponent's creature and then it goes on the top or bottom. The wording on this is really weird, but that's just how the rules work.
Okay, so it's not that the thing that I exploit is going on top of my library. It's I exploit something and get a grip tied.
Yeah. I think like the way to understand this card is exploit, period. Target creature, meaning like you pick a creature, period. Then do the thing.
Okay. In that case, this looks pretty good. Like 5 mana, 3/5 good stats. I've got fodder to sack, and I can grip tide your dude. That seems great. I could see picking this as highly as 3rd.
Yep, agreed. It's not like exactly that elemental that put like bounce things or whatever, but I think it does a reasonable impression. Obviously, it doesn't fly, but
yeah,
it's totally lost with a body. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it's Fibblethip's in that tank is what's going on here. Dreadlight Monstrosity is 4 blue for a 5/5 crab horror with ward 2. We can spend 5 and it can't be blocked this turn, only if we own a card in exile.
Oh my god, it's so easy to get a card in exile, I think.
Yeah, because the disturb stuff just kind of happens naturally, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love big blue unblockables.
They're a way to end a game. I also like seeing common 6-drops in a set. It's nice and refreshing after the last one where there was just nothing to do after 4 mana, basically. I also don't think this is particularly good, and I can't think of a deck that like needs it. It looks more like, hey, didn't get anything to do late game? Consider Dreadlight Monstrosity.
Yeah, so like I've started taking the approach when I build my draft decks of like slots, and like I'm looking for cards that can end the game on their own as like a slot, and I want like 2 of them or whatever, 3 of them depending on the format or whatever, right? And that could be a 3/3 flyer, that could be like an unblockable thing, or that could just be like a falter effect or whatever. And I think this goes in that slot, but it also goes in the slot of I just need a big thing that attacks and blocks through my opponent's 3 drops or 5 drops or whatever the board is looking like. And so this checks a couple of boxes for me. It's a common, so I should be able to get one of them. And I think that I wouldn't be sad to play one of these in a lot of my blue decks.
Okay, I can respect that. That's a good perspective to have it like looking for slots instead of like specifically casting cost. I dig it.
Yeah, exactly. But like if I have like a bunch of 3/3 flyers, then I don't need this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's
Okay.
like a fail-safe. I mean,
Yeah,
basically,
exactly, right?
this is what people can draft if they forced a deck and didn't get there. You can get this and try to win with it.
Yeah, so Blabor is, I think, referring to Diver Scab here. So, no, you have to exploit your own creature, but when you do the exploit, you pick a creature that your opponent controls to put on the top or bottom. It's templated a little weird because you have to target one of their creatures, and then they get to pick where to put it, and that's why the wording works within the rules as written, but it's just really confusing. And you can't just have like a sentence in Magic that just says target creature, right? And you can't choose a creature because you need to target it so that hexproof works or like prevents you from doing it. So it's not just like choose target creature and opponent controls would get around hexproof.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Revenge of the Drowned. Good example of that. Target creature's owner puts it on the top or bottom of the library. Having the word target as like it doesn't seem like a verb, but in Magic rules it is a verb, right? You're taking the action when it says target. You're targeting a creature.
Thank you. Good explanation, Dave.
Yeah, it's a weird card. Anyway, carry on.
Fear of Death is 1 and a blue for an aura. Enters the battlefield, mill 2 cards. Enchanted creature gets -X/-0, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard.
And I think this might be the only blue quote removal spell we get.
It's basically Swords to Plowshares, right?
I mean, it does a reasonable impression. Yeah, it's like most of the time it's 2 mana, like -3 or -4, -0 to something.
It's enough to take a threat out. I don't think this is
Yes.
embarrassing, but it would
No.
go in a specific deck that wants to win in the air, generally speaking, or has some long game setup scenario that it's trying to do. I could see it being somewhat valuable in blue-white, where you're relatively happy to mill yourself, or even green. So I think this is playable. I just don't think I'm excited about it.
No, yeah, and you may even like sideboard them in against aggro decks.
Oh yeah, against an aggro deck that's just trying to kill me, this looks great. I can just
Man, it's kind of bad against training.
yeah, because they'll just get more counters and a bigger
They
butt.
just get more counters, and they're like, I don't care if you block this now. It's already dead.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So yeah, I think this has some drawbacks. This may be worse than pacifism in this set, which is saying something.
Which is saying something. I agree.
All right, Geistlight Snare is 2 and a blue for an instant. It costs 1 less if you control a spirit and 1 less if you control an enchantment. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 3.
Yeah.
Meh.
Whatever.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
I'm probably not picking this highly enough to ever see it.
Agreed.
Like, I guess if it wheels, I could probably find a place to slot it in.
And that place would be in a blue-white deck, essentially, right?
Obviously, it does better in that deck, right? Like, obviously, these like Force Spike type cards, like you want to cast them early to get the best value out of them, and like being able to like play a 3-drop and still have this up on your 4th mana, like on turn 4 or turn 5 or something like that, can be relevant. But like it's just so dead late game.
Yeah, that's my concern.
Yeah,
so I don't like this, but if you're going to play it, take it and put it in your blue-white deck.
Yeah.
Gutter Skulker is 3 and a blue for a 3/3. Can't be blocked as long as it's attacking alone, and it has Hill Giant Disturb. Turns into an aura that presumably does the same thing. Yep, looks like it does.
Yeah, I love this card. This is this goes in that game finisher slot, but it does double duty in that you can do it twice.
And it's not that embarrassing a body.
Oh, 3/3 that can't be blocked?
Yeah.
Man, it's basically a 3/3 flyer that gives something flying.
It's better than flying.
No, that's what I mean, right? But like it's that similar. It's a very similar card to that. Yeah, no, I'm in. I think I'll pick this pretty highly.
It matters that it has to be attacking alone.
It's just the clock.
Yeah,
right.
But
and that's kind of why I look at it as like it has flying, because you probably like usually only have one flyer most of the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm with you.
So
I just wanted to point it out that
yeah,
like it does matter, but I like your analysis of like this has a slot and that slot is finisher, and I'm down with that. I could see picking this as highly as third.
yeah. But again, when you're slotting, this is like it's also just the body that I can block with.
Yep.
So
And then
like
later
I
pop it
have like
out.
yeah, I have like 12 slots for just creatures that can attack and block. And this checks both of those boxes, right? So it's kind of like building a mana base. It's like, oh, look at this. I have a dual land for my slots.
Okay. Man, I wish we still had the podcast. I would like to explore this theory of yours more.
Yeah, I think so. It's something that I've been working on the last like couple of sets. It really came out in Strixhaven, where you were filling slots in your board, right? And you had like lesson slots that
Lessons.
you were filling.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and like I wanted my cards in my main deck to also get my lessons. So like I was looking for good cards that had learn on them, and it's like, oh yeah, it checks like, there's boxes that are I'm taking this for learn only, and there's boxes that I'm taking this for both, checking learn and being a valuable card in my deck. So
Okay. I dig it.
anyway, carry on. I love this card. I'm gonna pick it like highly.
Yeah, me too. It's a good one.
Okay.
Lantern Bearer is 1 blue for a 1/1 flyer with Disturb. Disturb is 2 and a blue. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has flying.
Man, if I had a deck of like all Lantern Bearers and all Gutter Skulkers, how annoying would that be to play against?
I don't know that that's perfect, but you're starting to get there, yeah.
I think if you ever wanted a 1/1 flyer, this is the one that you.
Yeah, there's a lot of 1-drops that I don't like, and I'll usually caution people not to play them. I like this one. I do think this is a Bant card, and it's important to note that.
Oh,
You
I
want
was
it.
gonna say Esper.
I don't think Black's is interested in it, although I could see it. But I think the idea of milling this and then putting it on the big beefy green thing is pretty exciting. And I think the idea of just having this as part of your Disturb package in blue-white, you'd be pretty happy with.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even go the mill route. I went the exploit route.
You want to sacrifice the little bastard.
Yeah. So maybe it just fits into more decks than we think. Maybe it's not a red white or a red blue, and it's everything else.
How about that? You might be right. It is a non-creature spell on the other side.
Oh, that is interesting. Is this just a good blue common?
It might be, which is a lot for me to say looking at a 1-mana 1/1. But I think this might just be all right.
This might be like the lubricant that maybe it's just a jack of all trades. You can exploit it, it chips in for damage, it turns into an aura, you can mill it and be totally happy with it, and it's kind of a non-creature on the other side sometimes. I think man, that's interesting. I think this could be sneaky good.
Yeah, I think it might be. So I after talking through it, I think all of the blue decks want it, and I'm probably happy to have 1 or 2 in my deck.
The fact that the flip side gets +1/+1.
It's a big deal, man. And flying.
That's a big deal. If it just gave flying, I'd be a little down on it. Little worse on my pick order, but yeah, I like this card.
All right.
Yeah, man.
Let's play it. All right.
Okay, cool.
Lunar Rejection is another cleaver. It's 1 in a blue to return target werewolf or wolf to its owner's hand, 3 in a blue to do any creature, and you draw a card.
Yeah, take it or cleave it. No, I'm kidding. I kind of like this card because if you don't have room for it in your deck, you can board it in against werewolves and really get good value out of it. But as a 4-mana bounce that draws a card, it's probably pretty easy to get a 2-for-1 off of this.
I don't know about a 2-for-1. It's like you're getting a guaranteed 1-for-1. You might be able to find where you can get it otherwise. So we haven't stopped naming where we're picking things. We're doing that for uncommons. For the commons, it doesn't make sense to talk about how high pick a common is because none of them are incredibly high. We're instead talking about what deck we think it will fit in. I could see picking Lunar Rejection as highly as 5th and being happy about it. And I could see main decking this and just being happy when I get the advantage.
Yeah. I think you're main decking at least one of these. And I'm looking at the blue common version of that and trying to figure out what I want my split to be. I'd be happy if I had more Lunar Rejections than the common one.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe 2 in 1. would be a really good package, I think.
I could see that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Leaving the Dust, exactly.
And Leaving the Dust, like, I suppose it's worth noting, Leaving the Dust wasn't very good because that format was incredibly fast and terrifying. If this format is incredibly fast and terrifying, this will go down a little bit. Unless it's incredibly fast and terrifying because of werewolves, in which case it goes up. Well, we got to play with these cards some.
Yeah, I agree.
Mischievous Catgeist is 1 in a blue for a 1/1 cat spirit. When it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Disturb for 2 in a blue. Enchanted creature has whenever it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card.
I love this because it implies that Curiosity killed the cat. And it is Curiosity in cat form.
Okay.
It took me a minute. It's Curiosity, but the cat is dead. So like, there's got to be a pun on, like, a play on words here. Has to be.
Okay.
I love that I love, like, this is an aside, and I wish we had the podcast because, like, I love these little tangents, but, like, I love that with the callbacks that Wizards does on cards, and it rewards enfranchised players because they're like, oh, I get the joke, right? Mm-hmm. And I really think that's cool, and that's really tough to do in a game, like, as frequently as WotC does. Like, there was the champion of the parish that had the zombie form.
That was pretty cool.
And there's art callbacks, and like the amount of effort, like, love or hate the game of Magic as a design, and like hate the mythics and limited, and it's like, man, I really wish that the game was a little bit better in terms of gameplay. Like, they check a lot of boxes in the flavor and the art, and there's a lot of effort that goes into that, and I really like that. So anyway, I'm not as high on this card as I had hoped. Man,
it's a challenge, right? You staple 2 bad cards together. Do you want it now? Whereas the Lantern Bearer was like, here's a bad card and a good card. This is here's 2 bad cards.
I think so. But, like, oh man, all you got to do is draw like 2 cards off of it. I think.
But how the hell are you going to draw 2 cards off of this?
If I have 2 Gutter Skulkers, I'm taking the Catgeist pretty high. Or if I have like 4 Lantern Bearers, I'm probably taking the Catgeist pretty high. It's 1 in a blue on the front side.
Yeah, I think the trick with this, I guess it's easy to get in the graveyard if you cast it.
Yeah, because you just attack and your opponent's going to block it.
Unless they have a 0 something, but I don't know. I've never liked Curiosity, and this is just Curiosity that costs 3 mana, and I have to kill a kitten first.
Yeah, it's a lot of hoops to jump through.
Like, Curiosity was 1 blue mana, this effect, and it wasn't good, right? So why do we think it's going to be good now if it costs 5 more and I've got to stomp a cat on the way through? I don't understand.
Yeah. I guess you're happy to, like, pitch this or mill this.
I mean, cool.
You're kind of drawing a card off of it.
Sort of, yeah, I guess. That's fine. But, like, now we've got to be able to discard it first before it does anything. But, like, I'm just not it. I don't know what deck wants this. It's not that it's unplayable, and Curiosity wasn't unplayable. It's one of those things that, like, if you're able to do what this card is asking you to do and you win, you probably didn't need this card to win because your opponent would just fold to anything, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I guess
it's
if you
cute.
end up in a version of... It is cute. If you end up in a version of blue-white that is heavy on the flyers, this probably goes up in value. Is that fair?
Yeah, you could put it on a flyer. You could put it on a Gutter Skulk. So if there's a deck that wants it, it is blue-white.
Probably.
The deck with Gutter Skulk wants this. I don't know for sure about that, Mac. I can see it, but like the Gutter Skulk is already killing them. If you have the Gutter Skulk and they're dying, you don't need to draw more cards. And I assume there's a card draw spell at common in here somewhere. If there's not, and this is literally the only way to do it, then maybe we do have to jump through some hoops. But like if there's a divination or whatever, like just play that.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Maybe if there's big green tramplers. It's a blue-green card too. Like you can stuff it in there. I think you just need to be evasive, heavy evasive to make this work. And you don't know that when you first pick it.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Okay.
So it's a late like pack 3. Like it's like a pack 3 early pick. If I'm like, oh man, this would draw me, I can get some serious card advantage on.
Okay, I'll go with you there.
Okay.
I'll go with you there.
Okay, that's fair. Okay.
Suppository Scab is 3 and a blue for a 3/3 zombie with exploit. When it exploits a creature, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand.
Oh, heck yes.
Where are you getting this stuff to sacrifice?
I mean, yeah, no. I'm in. I'm sure that I'm in.
Okay. So, for what colors want this?
Probably your Grixis colors.
I was thinking Temur.
Oh, interest. No,
because you get the insects, and you're milling the spells. It can sack itself. This can just be 4 mana, get a spell back.
The reason I say Grixis is because I think there's probably black removal, and there's in black there's a repeatable like skeleton you can just sacrifice to itself, and there's like Doom Traveler and stuff.
Okay, so definitely black. Red should be interested because there's spells to get back, and Temur is giving you stuff to sacrifice. So maybe only white is the color that doesn't want it.
Yeah, I think this tickles 4 colors.
Okay, that makes it a pretty high level common, because it looked like most of the white stuff wasn't instant or sorcery, although they did have the cleave card, so you could probably even play it there. This may just be okay to put in all your blue decks.
Yeah, I think it's better in like the black, because that's where exploit is naturally.
Mm-hmm. Blue is starting to look very
goes down.
Blue is starting to look very good to me, and one of the reasons I'm so hype about let's talk about what deck this goes in is I did this with the Midnight Hunt cards, and that was the problem with blue, is they just went in everything and you were happy with them. So if that continues to get ticked here, then blue just may be very good.
Yeah, and that's a good way to look at it too, because for the commons it makes them higher picks, because it's like I can pivot with this into any other color. Right, like if I take a Scab 5th pick, and I have to pivot from blue black to blue green, it still probably fits in, right? Like I'm gonna have some blue spells that I can get back. I'm gonna maybe have some insects that I can sacrifice, right? Or like dorky 2-drops in green, or mana dorks that I don't care about, or something like that, right? Like there's gonna be other stuff I can sacrifice and still get value off Scab.
Agree. So blue's looking strong again.
It is looking.
Scattered Thoughts, here's your card draw. 3 in the blue for an instant. Look at your top 4, put 2 in your hand, 2 in your graveyard.
I love that it's instant. And I love that you can get value out of putting things into your graveyard.
Yeah, because white, potentially red, and green are all interested in that too, eh?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think this is like, I want one of these in my deck. I think I'm going to slot this in my card advantage spot, because it gives me card selection. And there's times where this is like draw 3 or draw 4.
Yeah, it can happen. So yeah, I think I'm on board with this. Yeah. Screaming Swarm is 6 for a 4/4 flyer. When you attack with one or more creatures, target player mills that many cards. 2 in the blue, put Screaming Swarm from your graveyard into your library, second from the top.
Yeah. I like this. I like this a lot. I can either mill myself if I want that to happen. I can like surveil this or discard this or mill this early and then put it back in and draw it. It kind of reminds me of that card from it was the green card you could put back in your library for a bunch of mana. What was it? What set was that? Was that Strixhaven?
Oh yeah, you're thinking of Bookworm.
Bookworm, that's the one. Yeah, kind of reminds me a little of that Bookworm. And a 4/4 flyer is pretty good. Like this slots into that game finisher part of my deck.
Yeah.
And there's potential if you have like the spider spawning, or like things that you're making a bunch of tokens, that you could like just mill your opponent out with this sometimes.
You could. I would caution people with a card like this, and with mill in general, especially in a set like this, if you have the opportunity to mill yourself or your opponent, mill yourself. Unless it's going to mill you out, even if you don't have value in your graveyard, like a potential value that you could get out of your library into your graveyard, your opponent might. So on blind mills, make sure you're always hitting yourself. I overall like this card too. It looks like it will be hard to deal with. There's a few enchantment-based removals that could get it, and I'm assuming there's some exile somewhere too. But this thing could be quite annoying, and I like it as a finisher. I don't know that I could pick it much higher than 5th. Maybe 3rd. Because like I was picking the Phantom Carriage pretty highly, and it was good too. But it looks like there's replacement 6-drops in this format. If you pass this and then end up in blue, you can take that sea horror we saw earlier and be fine. Whereas if you didn't take the Phantom Carriage, you weren't getting anything.
Yeah, I think you won't be milling in the blind with this card because the game has gone so long that you will know what you're doing and whether you should be milling yourself or your opponent.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, even if you're against a black-green deck, for all you know, they have some sort of stupid animate dead card in their hand, and you just milled their bomb, and they're like, "Oh, cool, let's get it." So, but overall, I think I'm with you. I could see going as high as third for this.
All right, I'm probably in the 5th to 7th window on, or 5th to 6th window on this one.
That's where I'd like to be.
Okay.
Selhoff Entomber is 1 in a blue for a 1/3. Discard a creature card, draw a card.
Yeah, you got to be making sure you're getting value off your discards here.
Yeah, I mean, this does make a hand keepable that might not otherwise have been. And remember, a lot of the things we're going to discard have Disturb, so we're pretty happy to, like, we can cast them again later. I don't like going for this highly or anything like that. I think it's a playable 2-drop in a lot of blue decks, and I think it, like, has higher value in the Bant colors, where you want to get crap in your graveyard or you want to get Disturb crap in your graveyard. But I wouldn't go nuts over it.
Yeah, it definitely has to be a Bant card. And I don't know. I'm not super high on this one unless I know that I have a lot of things to discard to value. So if I have Screaming Swarms, like if I have 2 Screaming Swarms in my deck, this becomes very good.
Yeah, I would say so.
Right? Or if I have 12 or not 12, 8 Disturb cards, then yeah, I think this goes up in value. But I think a lot of the value out of the Disturb stuff is I'd rather play it, block or trade with it, and then get the extra value out of it. I don't know how much I want to be discarding them. So I think I'm a little down on this card, but I think I could be proven wrong.
Well, I'm just saying, it's pack 3. I've got 2 2-drops, and I'm in blue-white. Sure, Selhoff, come on in, buddy.
Sure, that's fair.
Serpentine Ambush is 1 in a blue for an instant until end of turn. Target creature becomes a blue serpent with base power and toughness 5/5.
Plays a little better with +1/+1 counters.
It do.
It's fine. Probably not playing this in a lot of decks. I don't even know that I have room for 1 in my slots.
This is a 2-mana combat trick in most blue decks, right?
Yeah. That's it. That's all that it is, right? So if your blue deck wants a combat trick, which blue decks don't always want combat tricks.
Yeah, I think they go down a little bit in value because so many of your creatures are evasive. But if you want that, you could play it. It's not blowing my mind, but we could do it.
Drake, let me mute really quick, and you can tell me if it's me.
It's not you. I'm not hearing anything through your audio.
Okay.
So let's see. How many cards left in your deck before you stop milling yourself? 15 or so. I usually stop at 10, but do an evaluation of, can I close the game if in time? If yes, keep doing it to yourself. If not, switch. Have any of these change stats ever been good? No, but this is probably one of the better ones we've had, because it's whatever it is, it's a 5/5 now, and that looks like it'll be pretty damn big in the format. So I think you're probably winning a combat with this, maybe even lava axing your opponent. So you can play this. I don't think any particular deck wants it, although maybe blue-green wants to change an insect, but it's okay. This is not busted.
Yeah, it's not busted. Some people will find a spot for it, and I'll get got by it once or twice, but I'm not going to rush to put it in my deck.
Yeah, you could try to use it as removal, but it's removal that requires your creature to not get interacted with on the way, and that's what's scary about it.
Mm-hmm.
Skywarp Scob is 3 blue for a 2/5 flyer. ETB, exile 2 creature cards from your graveyard if you do draw a card.
They couldn't have made this a 3/5 instead?
I mean, the draw card's pretty nice, dude.
It is, but this I wish that I could slot this into my I can finish a game with this. And I don't know. Well, maybe I can. Maybe the 5 toughness kind of helps out with that.
It's a decent blocker.
It's a pretty good blocker. Is it a secret blue-green card, though, maybe?
No, I think it's just a pretty solid blue card in my estimation. And it's priced just right enough that we're not crazy excited about it. You need to be in blue. You need to be prioritizing blue. You're getting a good blocker out of it. And I think I'd kind of look at it like that. I don't think it's that hard to get 2 creatures in your graveyard by the time you get to 5 mana. And if you do get to 5 mana and you can't draw the card, you probably need a blocker. At which point you've got a pretty decent one. So I think it's okay. I think it would play better in blue-green, as you're saying, but I wouldn't be embarrassed to put one of these in any deck.
That's fair. I'm going to answer this phone call. You carry on.
Very well. Soul Cipher board is 1 and a blue for an artifact. It enters the battlefield with 3 omen counters on it. 1 and a blue, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them into your graveyard. So this is similar to what we saw with the Celestis Sanctifier just a set ago. When a creature card is put into your graveyard from anywhere, remove an omen counter. If we don't have any, transform it. So we play this and 3 things die or we mill them. What do I get? I get a 3/2 flyer that can only block creatures with flying, and I can spend 4 mana to loot. I don't know. This reminds me a little bit of the black artifact from the last set, where it's got a little bit easier to enable, but still a long time before I get the creature. And the downside on this one is it's draw 2. Okay, sure. It's draw 2, then discard a card. Neat. But like I've got to jump through some hoops to flip this. I'm going to invest something like 4 mana, maybe 6 mana, and something trading in combat before I get the 3/2. And this one does not end the game as fast as the Inherited Fiend did before. Like the Fiend would just pop into play, and it's basically they got 2 turns to kill it or they die. This one you can get out a little faster. I can't block with it, which is weird. Like it still seems fine, but I bet it's going to play a lot like the Mirror from the last set. So I could see taking this like 7th, but I don't think I'm going to go nuts over it.
Yeah, you got to be playing a really slow game to make this good.
There's some potential upside in Bant colors where you're happy to be dumping things in your graveyard anyway, and this is enabling that. But it's really not blowing my mind. Instant speed is good, but it's not a lot better than the Mirror. It's just better. Because you can hold something else up, but the Mirror was also 1 to activate. So like holding up 1 mana didn't ever really represent anything, right? So I wouldn't say it's better because it's instant. I'd look at the cost and think about that too. But that's about where I am. It's probably better than the Mirror on the front side and worse than the Mirror on the other side. So there's your trade-off.
If you're loaded with exploit, this is probably pretty reasonable to flip.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have a hard time flipping it. I think you're going to be sad if it gets bounced, which blue looks like it's going to be able to do pretty easily. There's common bounce.
Yeah. Interesting. I like that we don't care about things in the yard for the most part, but we care about things going to the yard in a lot of cases. I think that's a neat little twist.
It is. It's a nice twist for Innistrad specifically.
Yep.
All right, Steelclad Spirit is 1 and a blue for a 3/3 defender. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield, it can attack.
Hey, it's riddle form.
But better.
Kind of. Yeah, because it just blocks all the time. I like it. There's a 3/2 for 2 that you have to pay mana to like make it able to attack. And a lot of the times you just blocked a 2-drop with it and you were totally fine with that.
That was an Eldraine, right?
Yeah, and then there was like the 3 mana one in Strixhaven that had defender, but you could attack if you cast an instant or sorcery.
Mm-hmm.
And you just blocked that a lot of the time.
Yeah. I think this will do that too. This obviously is built to go in blue-white, where you're casting a lot of auras and having shenanigans going there. But I think you could play it in the other decks. I would just caution you probably not to. I think it's a blue-white gold card.
Yeah, agreed.
Because Moat Piranhas was not very good. Stitched Assistant was 2 and a blue for a 3/2 with exploit. Exploits a creature, scry 1, and then draw a card.
Oof. I like this. I like this as a common exploit sometimes. And you might not have anything you exploit, and you're just happy with a 3/2 for 3. You're not happy, but like you're okay with that as the floor.
Yeah.
Goes up in value if you have any of the repeatable or like the things you're happy to sacrifice.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So I think this is looking pretty good in black and pretty good in green would be my guess. Probably not as interested in it in white or red, but it is worth noting if you have some of these in the sideboard of your blue-red deck and your opponent's playing 2 pacifisms, by all means bring it in.
Yep.
because the body's
So-
just not embarrassing.
Oh yeah, exactly. Especially for blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I probably have room for like 2 of these in most of my decks, most of my blue decks.
I would think so. It's a serviceable 3 that could do something later, because there's even some amount of time where you top deck this on turn 10 at a board stall, and you've got a 2/2 laying around that's just worthless. So, like, cash them in, get a little deeper.
Yep.
Storm Chaser Drake is 1 and a blue for a 2/1 flyer. When it becomes the target of a spell you control, draw a card.
Ooh.
Is an aura a spell?
Yeah, there's a little aura payoff, right?
Okay.
May also be red. I haven't seen red yet, but there may be like red like combat tricks that can draw you cards. Like, but yeah, no, I'm in on this one if I'm auras for sure.
I mean, it's kind of okay to play it even if you don't have any way to target it. Like, it's a very serviceable 2-drop.
It's a 2-drop 2/1 flyer. It's a vampire interloper
That can block.
that can block. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like I went through the entirety of Midnight Hunt never playing Vampire Interloper. I think it's actually the only card from the set I never resolved.
Oh, really interesting. I did play it a couple of times.
I thought it was just only good in red black, and I wouldn't take them high enough to get into red black. Like, I think that was my least drafted deck. I sideboarded in a duress once.
I am not Colonel Drake.
Yeah, so I think I could see picking this as high as 3rd, because like the floor is I got a 2/1 flyer. It's great. And the ceiling is I can target it, with 5 different things, and it's going to be amazing.
Yep.
Stinkopate is X and a blue for an instant counter target spell unless its controller pays X, exile it.
I mean, sometimes I slot these in as a 1 of.
That's interesting. I generally hate counterspells unlimited except for Stinkopate, because I feel like this one is so good at being a curve filler. Like, if I don't have a 2-drop, I can counter something. Don't have a 3, we can counter something. So I usually, like, I don't know that I wanted one Stinkopate, but I was interested in having one, and its value goes up the more instants we have in the deck. So
Yeah,
I think this could be quite good in blue-red, where we've maybe got some spell payoffs, but I've got room for one of these in any blue deck.
That's fair. Yeah, the fact that it's not usually dead, and you can usually, like, sometimes you can sneak this in for X equals 1.
Yeah, and that's a good deal. It's a real good deal.
That is a pretty good deal. Yeah,
and it's a common. We've also got Siphon Essence, which is 2 and a blue, counter target creature or planeswalker, create a blood token.
That's probably better than Syncopate.
I think it's about even. Syncopate has the advantage of this can be my 2-drop. Syncopate is something you can't really play around, just accept that they're going to get something and choose what you want them to get. If that's what you mean by play around, sure, give it a try.
Yeah. I can get, like, I think this is a fine counter spell in blue. So if you're in a position where you want counter spells, I think you're going to play this, because most of the time you want to counter a creature.
Yeah, and I would agree with you strongly here. So I think both of these are good. There's decent counter magic here, possibility for a control deck, and both of them would easily slot into a spells deck.
Yep.
Thirst for Discovery is 2 and a blue for an instant, draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards unless you discard a basic land.
I think I'd rather the 4-mana version.
Me too. But I'm not, like, sad about it. There's some times where you'd rather discard the 2 cards and get value off of it that way.
Yeah. I just don't think, like, I think if I don't pick this early, I'm not sad if I end up with the 4-mana version instead, I guess is my point, right?
It's true, and it's weird that this one kind of wants you to discard land when the advantage of 3-mana draw is you can go find your lands. But I suppose in the scenario where you draw 3 and discard, you're still at least up 1 card, like it's replaced itself, and you've kind of gotten some selection and found what you need. So I will never take this high enough to play it, is my challenge. But if I see it 7th and I'm in blue, by all means, let's do it.
Yeah. I just don't have, like, it's either this or the 4-mana one, and I think they're pretty interchangeable. So, like, that's why I'm never going to pick this highly.
I think the 4-mana one's actively better is the weird part.
I mean, I don't disagree. I think they're like different. Maybe they're not even that different.
Yeah, They're not.
Yeah, no, they're pretty much the same slot in my mind, right? So
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
All right, Wonderlight Spirit is 2 and a blue for a 2/3 flyer that can only block creatures with flying.
It's fine.
I wish it was a 3/2.
Yeah, that would be way better.
Be kind of insane, huh?
It's fine. I'm having trouble like figuring out where I really want this. So that just leads me is just like it's just a fine curve filler.
Yeah, it's a curve filler. The can't block thing is really a problem. So I end up thinking maybe there's not a deck that wants this. It is at least a flying platform to put your auras on. So we could do that in blue-white, but I'm not excited by this card, and it doesn't look like one I think I'll play very often.
Agreed. Okay.
Replacement.
Yeah.
Replacement. Wash Away is basically a fancy cancel for limited, and I would kind of evaluate it as you would cancel, and that you've got room for counter spells, but I think the two we saw earlier are just better. So I'm kind of going to dismiss this one as just something I won't take.
Yeah, it's like a cheaper Syncopate sometimes is the only upside I can see from this card. So yeah, I'm not really this card.
Yeah. I don't even think Wash Away goes in the sideboard. I think it's just like if you want cancel, play it, but you shouldn't be picking this high enough to actually get to play with it because somebody else at the table will nab it.
I could see it as a sideboard against blue-white is the only upside I see from this.
You want to counter crap they're casting from their graveyard for 1 mana?
Yeah, no, exactly, right? Because it becomes so easy to hold up. That's the only spot I can see this, but I'm not going to pick it and put it in my sideboard just for that. I'm going to like wheel it and put it in the sideboard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, Bice, if we're countering something from the graveyard, they already got value off of it. So this is like, using a premium removal spell to kill the 2/1 that dies into a 2/1 flyer. It just doesn't, you're down a card when you do that. And that's the issue with this, which means it's basically just cancel.
Yep.
Whispering Wizard is 3 and a blue for a 3/2. When you cast a non-creature spell, get a 1/1 flying white spirit creature. You can only do that once per turn.
Oh, I'm in.
Yeah, third pick me. Let's build it.
Yeah, and again, you can pivot to all sorts of things with this card.
Yeah, I think I really dig that because you can put this in blue-red spells. You can put this in white, blue disturb shenanigans, right? And get value out of it. So it's kind of a Jeskai card.
Yep.
I like this one a lot.
But even if you end up playing it in like black, you're going to have some spells to get a 1/1. Like this, a lot of the time, this is going to be 4 mana, make a 3/2 and a 1/1 flyer, and you're totally happy with that.
Yeah, it's interesting to compare this to Murmuring Mystic because it has the same. It essentially has the same stats, right? It's 5 points of power and toughness for the same cost, but this one doesn't only trigger on instants and sorceries. This one triggers on anything that isn't a creature. So if you're casting artifacts or more relevantly enchantments, you're getting this to fire off. So like all of those enchantment-based removal spells that you have in white is kind of a deal. So the idea is you would cast an enchantment on your turn to remove something or just to bring it back from the graveyard and then counter something on their turn, and you've gone through a turn cycle and gotten value. You didn't usually make multiple things per turn with the Mystic anyway in Limited, at least in my experience. But all right.
Yeah, no, this is a third pick. Easy. First pick in some packs for sure.
Yeah, agree.
Okay.
Witness the Furniture is 2 and a blue for a sorcery. Target player shuffles up to 4 target cards from their graveyard into their library. You look at the top 4 cards of your library, then put one of those cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order.
I think if you are milling yourself so hard that you need a backstop, this is your backstop. But I think that's it.
Do you see what the zombie is doing in the art for the next picture? Because that's how I feel about this card.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think that there are going to be dirtily players, and I don't mean that in the derogatory sense. I mean that like the players whose style are control and drag the game out and find combos and incremental value to like just beat you down and win the game that way. This is their card.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
And I could see playing that sometimes. I hope that the format goes long enough that we can play something like this and have some fun with it. You could use it to get some disturb cards out of your opponent's graveyard before they have the chance to cast them, or protect yourself from milling and get a little bit of card selection. But you are spending 3 mana to not attack, not a block, and not get ahead on cards, just have that selection. So it's not that it's unplayable, it's just that it's not doing a lot.
I guess if you have a lot of spells payoff cards, so like if you have 2 Whispering Wizards.
Yeah, let's talk.
Like a Witness to the Future, I think goes way up in value.
Agreed.
Because you can shuffle them back in and get them later. You can shuffle more spells in and like get more card advantage there, and then get those triggers. So like, I don't think poo-poo it, but I think you're looking to take this in the right deck.
Agreed.
There are decks that you would be excited to have a card like this.
Yeah, I think so. And Clear the Mind is something we could do. Last blue card is Wretched Thong. Which
I read that as Thong the first time as well.
Well, that's what it is now, man. This is a 2/1 zombie horror. When it dies, you may search your library for a card named Wretched Thong, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle.
Oh man, this is it's pretty good exploit fodder. And it probably I would put it in my deck if I had a second copy of this and I like wanted to exploit things, and like it kind of reminds me of Doom Traveler.
I mean,
if you have another one in your deck.
Yeah, it's a 2/1 that can die into a 2/1 if you have 2 of them, and you're going to need 2 drops. So I don't think I have any issue with that.
Yeah. I want if I'm not going to put it in if it's my only 2. If I only have 1, I think I'm going to want at least 1 more.
Unless you're just dying for 2 drops, in which case you might. But like as it stands, I think looking at this as a blue-black card that I'd be happy to have 2 of is pretty neat.
How many would I play?
I think 4 would be about the tops for me.
Yeah.
Because I don't have room for that many 2 drops.
Yeah. I think if I'm playing 4, I'm going to like make sure that I can get a bunch of value off of them. So I'm going to want really good exploit cards.
Yeah. That's fair. All right. I need to get a snack. I'm getting a little hungry. I ate my soup before we started, but I need some sort of snack. Can we maybe take 5?
Yeah, we'll take 5. How long are we going? What time do you have to be done by?
Basically 1:40 is when I need to close it. So I think we can get through black and maybe one more color, but maybe just black.
1:40. So that's
about an hour and 20 minutes.
Hour and 20. Okay, cool.
All right. Cool. I'll be back in just a minute, chat.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Aim for the head. 2 and a black for a sorcery. Choose 1. Exile target zombie. Or target opponent exiles 2 cards from their hand. Strictly better mind rot.
More like mind shot. Am I right? I mean, I've always liked mind rot in limited. The fact that it exiles is pretty significant given that there's a lot of graveyard shenanigans, and exiling a zombie seems, I mean, why not have that as an upside if you top deck it later? This looks like something I would be happy to put in most black decks as a one of.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see the downside here, and I don't see any specific deck that would not want one.
No, I think it's like a slot, like a utility slot. Like if I have room for mind rot, I would want this in my mind rot slot. Right?
I think there's more mind rot slots than people recognize, but yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, that's true, right? And that's either a preference or like a skill level thing, right? It's like identifying how many of these effects you can play and what they take out of your deck when you put them in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I'd be happy with one of these a lot of the time.
Okay.
Probably get it on the wheel, hopefully. Okay.
Agree.
Archghoul of Thraben. 2 and a black for a 3/2 zombie cleric. Does not fly. Okay, I'm done on that. Whenever it or another zombie you control dies, look at the top card of your library. If it's a zombie card, you may reveal it and put it in your hand. If you don't put the card into your hand, you may put it into your graveyard. So kind of like powered up Surveil. And it should be pretty easy to get zombies to die.
This is a zombie that will die. So like just by itself, a 3-mana 3/2 that dies into look at your top card, you can burn it if you want to, is already value. From what I can tell, we're going to have more zombies in black. So I could see picking this as highly as 5th, I think is where I'd be like happy.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, cool.
Okay. Bleed Dry, 2 black for an instant. Target creature gets -13 until end of turn. If it would die, exile it instead. There's your 4-mana murder.
Yeah, 4-mana murder, instant speed is nice. Kills just about anything, I'd imagine, and exiles it, which is pretty spicy. So I'd imagine this is going to be a premium pick for every black deck.
Yeah, you're going to have a mix of removal spells, and having a couple of these is super nice. Blood Fountain is a single black for an artifact. When it enters the battlefield, create a blood token. And then you have the activated ability 3 black, sacrifice, return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand.
I actually kind of dig this. I normally don't like raised dead effects, but when you're getting 2 instead of 1, I'm like, okay, that's a nudge towards the direction of it being good. And with normally they get stuck in your hand, but with this one, I put it in play, I get the blood token, I can discard a creature to go find a land I need, and then it's easy to get that creature plus another one back, and all of a sudden we've built a package that I'm all right putting one of in every black deck.
Yeah, I kind of like that. The fact that the blood tokens are 1 to activate instead of 2 really makes that play pattern like realistic too. So like you could potentially keep a 1-lander with this, assuming your 1 land is black, and have a really good chance of hitting your 2nd land the next turn.
And I like cards that do that and smooth out mana. So like, I think I would put this in just literally every one of a copy of this in most black decks. I think I'd be happy with it.
Yeah, I think so too. It's your black divination. It's pretty close to that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you can't say that it's like 5 mana to activate this, because like it's an installment, so it's really closer to 4 than it is to 5 anyway. Like,
it's closer to 6 than it is to 4 too. Like, whatever.
Yeah, that's true, because like you're gonna spend it on the blood token and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I'm in.
Just one. I don't need to go nuts, but I'll play one.
Yeah, I agree. Set utility slot. Blood Crazed Socialite, 3 and a black for a 3/3 vampire with menace. When it enters the battlefield, create a blood token. Whenever it attacks, you may sacrifice a blood token. If you do, get +2/+2 until end of turn.
Seems pretty good to me. We got a 3/3 menace. Now it doesn't block that well. Yep. But this looks like a black-red card. Like it's likely going to want to play with the red cards that give us access to more blood tokens, because just doing it once to attack with a 5/5, we could probably just take that hit. I want it to attack as a 5/5 every turn.
Yep.
So I think I'm going to label this mostly a black-red card and say we should probably put it in the black-red vampire decks, because it doesn't look like it's particularly playing well with any of the other mechanics. But I also wouldn't be embarrassed to just play it. It's fine.
Yeah, that's true. Again, this is the card that I think makes it feel the most like energy to me.
Yeah, agree.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay. You can't overload on these either, I don't think. I think you want to be careful of how many of these you take.
Yeah, I definitely don't want more than 2.
Yeah, because like I think it's a thirsty mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
Bloodsworn Squire.
It's black, thirsty. 3/3. I see what you did there.
It's a vampire soldier. It's a 3/3. Has the activated ability 1 and a black, discard a card. This gains indestructible until end of turn. Tap it. Then, if there are 4 or more creature cards in your graveyard, transform it into Bloodsworn Knight, which is a star equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. 1 and a black, discard a card. Bloodsworn Knight gains indestructible until end of turn, and tap it. So this is closer to your Seasoned Hallowblade, but it is 4 mana.
Yeah, which I like.
Hallowed Seasoned Blade.
Like, if we're going to have something like that, it's way better to have it here than it is somewhere else. It's worth noting that the enchantment-based removal spells do a pretty good job at, like, nerfing this, which I like. But this card looks powerful to me. I could see picking it as high as 5th.
Yeah, I think so. I like that it's any card. Like, I can just discard lands to it.
Yeah, to keep it alive, and it's not going to transform until it would be better, which is neat, right? Because it'll turn from a 3/3 into a 4/4.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even notice that. Yeah. That's a good point. So you're not really going to go down in value on it when it does transform.
Yeah, unless somebody can exile your graveyard with their
whatever.
Mana
that's
left,
fine.
But
that's fine. Okay. Catapult Fodder. I love this. Hey, this card's pretty sweet. 2 and a black for a 1/5 zombie. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 3 or more creatures that each have toughness greater than their power, transform Catapult Fodder into a 2/6 Catapult Captain with the activated ability 2 and a black, sacrifice another creature. Target opponent loses life equal to that sacrificed creature's toughness. This is like a nice little control payoff, or control win condition, I should say.
Yeah, and it's also something to go into kind of the black-green butt stuff deck, right?
Yeah. Okay. No, we're not saying that.
We're not?
No, we're not.
Okay.
I really like this card. You have to draft a certain style of deck around it, but I think that could be either blue-black, like a control-y style deck, or a green-black, like if you have like the gold card.
And what would you refer to that mechanic as?
Toughness matters.
Okay, toughness matters.
Okay.
That works for me.
Yeah,
I think it obviously goes better there, but sure, you could play it in the control deck too, because you would likely have some creatures that could flip it and then ping somebody to death with it. It's interesting that it doesn't say sorcery speed only, so you can hold this to block with it and other things to block with it, and then just kind of throw them. And there are 113s here.
So the one achievement unlocked, right? That'll be an easy achievement to unlock, is to throw 13 at the face.
Yeah, I think I'll probably do that in this format, which is pretty exciting.
Easy.
So yeah, let's get in and sign up for butt stuff and pick this as high as 3rd.
I'm probably leaning more toward 5th. I think there's better cards on top of this one that don't require me to build around it. But like, yeah, like, you know, I wouldn't fault anybody for taking it that highly.
Okay, fair.
Okay. All right, Courier Bat, 2 and a black for a 2/2 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, if you gain life this turn, return up to 1 target creature card from your graveyard to your hand.
So this is secretly a black-white card.
Yes.
Because I think we're past the days in Limited where having a Windrake is good. I know you like them. I used to like them too, but it's just not good enough. But if we can consistently get a card draw off of this, it's pretty great. So this is an Orzhov card drafted accordingly.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy to have these if I can get a card half of the time off of this.
That's a very fair assessment.
Fair?
Yep.
Yeah, because sometimes you're going to cast it on curve and you're not going to have anything in your yard. And sometimes you're going to cast it late in the game, but you don't have life gain. But I think there's like a good middle ground there where you are going to be able to get value off of this one.
Yeah, I'd guess about 30% of the time you can draw a card off of it in a decent white-black deck. And I think that's good enough.
You think that's good enough? Okay, I think that's fair.
Good enough that you should be able to wield the darn thing, so yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Desperate Farmer, 2 and a black for a 2/2 lifelink human peasant. It's lifelink when another creature you control dies, transform this into a 4/3 lifelinker. Not bad.
It's not, but it's another one of these cards where, like, I can't really do anything with the Desperate Farmer. I kind of have to flip it first before it does anything. Which
That's true.
I think puts this, like, again, weirdly, kind of into the black-white camp. Because I really need to care about that lifelink.
Yeah,
now,
it flips on exploit.
It does. So I was just about to get there. So we could move
Like
this
Esper.
into Esper.
Yeah.
But I don't think I want this in red-black, and I don't think I want this in black-green. So I think this is an Esper card, and we should draft accordingly. Like, it's a common. It's not busted. But it looks like it would be pretty good if you can get the darn thing to flip. I'd love a 4/3 lifelink.
Yeah, that's true.
The 2/2 lifelink, though, if I have to block, is just bloody terrifying.
It is not the greatest, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably like better cards to put in this slot.
That's what I'm thinking. So I draft it in your Esper decks, and let's call it okay.
Okay. All right, Diregraph Scavenger, 3 and a black for a 2/3 with Death Touch. When it enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target creature from a graveyard. 1 target card from a graveyard, yes. If a creature card was exiled this way, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life.
I'm pretty okay with this. I think it may go in a bit more of a dirtily deck, but it looks like a solid ground blocker if we're doing air things. It does have higher toughness than it does power. It's going to trade for a card. It can get something out of the graveyard. My only concern is, like, as a 4-drop, how many can you play? But I think I'm pretty happy to put one of these in most black decks. I don't think this one has the restriction. We can just put this in a deck. It looks like it'd be worse against flyers, better against ground stuff. So it's kind of like, what deck are you playing against instead of what deck are you playing?
Yeah. I think it's a quick sideboard out in some matchups, or even a sideboard in some matchups. Like if I have one in the board, if I have one in the main and one in the board, probably comfortable with that.
That's the dream scenario for this card, isn't it?
I think so. I think so.
I'm with you.
So I think that's where I'm looking to pick it up. And if I don't get any, I'm not sad about it, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Doomed Dissenter. Dissenter. 1 in a black for a 1/1. We've seen this card before. When it dies, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token.
We have seen it before, but we haven't seen it. And we've seen it before in a format that really didn't have anything to sacrifice it to, and it was okay.
Yeah.
And now we've got exploit.
Yeah.
So I think if you've got some black exploit cards, we're pretty happy to have one of these. If you're in blue-black exploit and this is all of your 2-drops, you're fine. And you can still put it in the other decks and it does a serviceable 2-drop impressionation.
Agreed. This is probably a common that I'm sad if I'm in that deck.
Yeah, you want to get a couple of these if you're in blue-black exploit.
Yeah, like so when I'm thinking of the slots in my blue-black deck, I want like 4 or 5, maybe more sack fodders that I'm happy to sacrifice. And so that means Doom Dissenters or like repeatable sacrifice or token makers some kind. And this checks those boxes.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay. Dread Fugue. Yeah. All right. What single black for sorcery with cleave, 2 in a black. So the regular is target player reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it with mana value 2 or less. That player discards that card. And if you cleave, you can just get any card from their hand.
Yeah, I'm not interested in this.
No, I'm out.
You're
not going to hit enough on the 1 mana side. You're always going to have to cast it for its cleave cost to get value off of it.
Yeah, and we're not going nuts about coercion or whatever. So I'm never going to play this. I don't like discard unlimited. There's people who do. If you're one of those people, feel free to pick it and play it. But I think the downside of you spending more mana to get something out of their hand they haven't even cast, and it being a miserable top deck is just putting me out on this. Mind Rot, at least I'm getting 2 cards. So you may be like, why don't you like this when you like Mind Rot? Because I'm getting a 2-for-1 off of Mind Rot. With this, I'm not. I'm spending mana to mess up their hand and not affect the board.
Yep. The Mind Rot is way better. All right. Edgar's Awakening, 3 black for a sorcery. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Nice. When you discard this, you may pay a single black. When you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand.
How am I discarding it?
Madness.
Yeah, it's madness. That's kind of a cool callback, but how am I discarding it?
I didn't see a ton. Oh, blood tokens.
Blood tokens. Okay, there we go. Duh, the whole mechanic of the set.
Yeah. It's kind of neat, right?
Yeah, but I don't want a 5 mana raised like reanimate. It's got to be from my graveyard. I could just play a 5-drop. Like, what am I reanimating that I'm excited about? This card's really cool. I'm never casting it. I'm with Tommy.
That's fair. Always discard, never cast.
Oh, he's saying
there's
it
going to be
differently.
scenarios where if this is in your deck, there's going to be scenarios cast late game, right? You top deck it and you're like, oh, sweet, I got my bomb back. That's about it, though. I think this goes up in value if I have like really good rare or mythic that I want to get back. It's like a second copy of my unbeatable mythic if they can kill it for whatever reason.
Yeah, that always irks me a little bit because I'm like, we had that with the common one that you could just play out and use it just like stay alive in the early game and then just let it sit there and get it back. Like, I hear everything everybody's saying about this, but that black artifact just does everything this does. It just
might be better.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I think it is.
That's
it
fair.
even gives you the blood token. So I'm kind of out on this. If you like it and you want to play it, sure, pick it. I could see someone wanting to take it as high as 5th or 7th, but I'm not playing this type of card.
Yeah, that's fair.
What is she doing in that pack?
Felsinger.
She is shoving blood in his nose. That's how you reanimate people.
Felstinger, 2 and a black for a 3/2 with Death Touch. It's a zombie scorpion with exploit. And when it exploits a creature, target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life.
Nice. Okay.
So it's shoot, what was that card called? Sign in blood, basically.
Targeted
at the floor. At the floor, it's Sign in Blood.
It's Sign in Blood or a 3/2 Death Touch, whichever one you'd prefer. You want 2 cards and 2 life. You want to kill your opponent if they're at 2, or would you like a 3/2 blocker? You can do all of that.
And you pair it with Doom Dissenter and draw your cards.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I'm in. This is right up there. This is first pickable out of packs that have bad rares.
What's the balls version of Phallic? I believe it's Balak. How high are you picking this? Because I think
Yeah, I'm like this is like first pick out of a bad rare pack, I think.
so third is where we kind of want it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Gift of Fangs is a single black for enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 as long as it's a vampire. Otherwise, it gets -2/-2. It's basically dead weight with upside.
Yeah, that makes it better than Deadweight. The question would be, of course, how good is Deadweight in this set? And the answer is usually Deadweight was not that great. But I think I'd be happy to play one of them. It goes up a little bit if I'm in vampires and can maybe kill you with it. But all of that said, I used Immolation offensively, I think, twice in 200 Midnight Hunt drafts. So, like, that just doesn't come up that often. But it could. I think I'm happy enough to have one of these, and it doesn't have any deck restrictions.
Yeah, that's true. That's good. I remember deadweight in some formats being pretty decent too.
Original Innistrad, it was good. The last time we had it, which was a Ikoria, it was kind of bad.
Yeah, it was bad in Ikoria. I remember that. Okay. Gluttonous Guest, 2 and a black for a 1/4 vampire. When it enters the battlefield, create a blood token. Whenever you sacrifice a blood token, you gain 1 life.
Okay.
It's the treasure dude from Ixalan.
Yeah, and it's kind of
not really, but
it's got some Mardu action going on here. It's getting you a blood token. It's a vampire for your vampire tribal shenanigans, and it can gain you some life in your black-white life gain deck. So I like it. This is a common role player for Mardu decks.
Yeah, I would not be sad to have one of these. I think if I have a use for the blood tokens or I need the life gain or whatever.
It's a butt card too. That's fair.
This is true. Look at that. Hey, can you imagine this? Actually, this might be pretty good in your green black if you have the Butts Matter cards because it's a 4/4.
Okay, so really only blue isn't interested in this. Good catch, Kenny. So yeah, we could use this in several decks, and it like looks like something nobody's going to be excited to take, but certainly a role player in a lot of decks. I dig that.
I dig that. Interesting. All right, Grisly Ritual is 5 and a black for sorcery. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. Create 2 blood tokens.
I think this is the I didn't get any good removal, so I'll take it removal of the set. Did we have a good common black removal spell? It was the 4-mana instant speed one, right?
Yeah, -13.
Okay, and I'm pretty happy with that because I'm pretty unhappy with this. I don't want to play this. If I have to, fine, but I'm not that excited about it.
Yeah, I'd be pretty sad if this was all of the removal that I had.
Yeah, I don't think it's embarrassing to play like 2 of the other ones in one of these and call it a deck.
Yeah, you're going to have to play this at some point.
Yeah, over the course of the format, I'll play one of these, and I won't particularly love it.
All right. Groom's Finery, 1 and a black for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+0, and it gets an additional +0/+2 and has Death Touch. As long as an equipment named Bride's Gown is attached to a creature you control and has equipped 2. Yeah, this is the same as the white one. Like, I'm off it.
Yeah, me too. And everything I said about the white one, 2 hours ago, apply it to this, and you've got your review.
Yep, agreed. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Hero's Downfall. 1 black for an instant at uncommon. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. Remember when that was a rare?
I do, but looks like a first pick to me. Like, this is just solid instant speed removal. It's not that much better than the common one, so, like, kind of let that sink in for a minute. Like, it can kill a planeswalker, but that very rarely matters to us. So this is mostly just murder for us at uncommon. So, like, I'm saying first pick possibility out of some packs, and it is, but I think I'm really happy picking this third pick.
Yeah, I agree, and especially because the common one is just very comparable.
Yeah, it's almost the same card. Like
almost the same card.
The difference in 1 mana is negligible. Like if the common one was black 3, it might even be better.
Yeah, agreed.
All right.
Innocent Traveler, 2 black for a 1/3. At the beginning of your upkeep, any opponent may sacrifice a creature. If no one chooses to, transform Innocent Traveler into a 3/3 flyer that gets +2/+0 as long as an opponent controls a human.
Okay, so you want me to play a 4-mana 1/3?
No, it's a 4-mana 3/3 flyer.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
I mean, I think 99% of the time it's a 4-mana 3/3 flyer that it just starts off as a 1/3 and then becomes on your next turn.
So I think this is a pretty high value card. I think I could see picking it as high as 3rd through 5th and being happy. I think it has to come out against a green deck that's really doing the insect thing, because they'll just be like, sure, you got a 1/3, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I would just pick it as highly as you want a 4-mana 3/3 flyer. So if you're taking a 4-mana 3/3 flyer 5th, then that's where you would be taking this.
That's
like
it's even worse than I thought, isn't it? This is kind of like this could almost be a common and it'd be okay. It is a 5/3 flyer sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah. I'm moving back with Fresh Doggy. I don't even want it 5th anymore.
I just think it's like a 6 to 7.
Yeah, it's fine. We could pick it 7th. It's fine.
Like I think you're gonna test your sideboard skills with this.
Yeah,
not really test your sideboard skills, but it really demonstrates like how best of 3 is different than best of 1. Because if like, let's say I have this in the board because I just have better 4-drops, and my opponent's playing human, it's coming in every time. And if I'm main decking it and my opponent's playing a bunch of token shenanigans, then it's coming out every time.
Yeah, that's fine. I'd probably play this. I don't think you should pick it particularly highly. It's not that much better than the common. In fact, it may not be better than the blue common for 2 and a blue that let you 3/3 flyer that let you like surveil or whatever.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, no, exactly.
It could be a 5/3 flyer 70% of the time, and I still don't think it's incredibly busted.
That's true.
But I mean, if it's a 5/3 flyer, it's going to close the game. So like maybe there's something to it.
That's true. Maybe if it's a 5/3 flyer, like, you know, like the 70% of the time or whatever, then it's probably pretty good.
Okay, I'm moving back to 5th, and we got to move on.
Okay, Kerrigan. Mind Leech Ghoul, 1 and a black for a 2/2 with exploit. When it exploits a creature, each opponent exiles a card from their hand.
That's kind of neat for a 2-drop.
It is kind of neat for a 2-drop.
Because you're going to have to play some number of 2-drops in your deck anyway. It's awkward, though. Like, I'd really rather have the Doomed Dissenter, but I guess this kind of works with it if these wheel, and you can get a card out of their hand and do something early, and then late game, you could just be like, they're holding something, I'll just fire this off. This guy seems okay. I could put it... I could see putting this in any black deck as an acceptable 2-drop.
This really makes pacifism and the equivalents look not so great. Right? I think this will shine against the white enchantment removal decks.
Yeah, it will, and that sucks. But like, it's not like these decks were hurting for things to exploit anyway. Like, exploit is a new mechanic for some people, but it's not for you and I. We played with this in cons.
No, but I guess my point is it's like, you know, this comes down on turn 6, sacrifices the thing that is arrested, and then gets gets the last card out of your opponent's hand. I think that's a pretty good play pattern for a card like this. But you can't jam a bunch of these in your deck. So like maybe like as a 1-of in your 2-drop spot is probably pretty decent.
Yeah, so I don't think you have to stress about it that much. And it does mean that if you're playing against black, it's probably a good idea to hold 1 land.
Agreed. All right, Parasitic Grasp, 1 and a black for an instant, and it's Cleave for 1 black. So its regular cost is it deals 3 damage to target human creature, you gain 3 life. And 1 black is just 3 damage to target creature, you gain 3 life.
This looks fine. I don't know that I would pick it over the -13 one. The life gain's relevant, and I'd be very happy to take it. Yeah. It's an uncommon, I have to say. I guess I'd take it 5th. But it definitely playable. It looks even good. I'm just not sure that it's better than the common removal.
Yeah, if I have 1 of these in my removal suite, I'm probably pretty happy with that, because I think the gain 3 life is pretty relevant, and sometimes you're going to get it for the 1 and a black cost instead.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. Yeah. Like, that's a great deal.
Pretty cool. Yeah. Persistent Specimen, single black for a 1/1 skeleton, and it has the ability 3 and a black or 2 and a black, return it from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped.
So this is basically only blue-black, right?
Yeah, it's your repeatable exploit fodder. But I think if you're heavy on exploit, I think it's very good.
I don't know about very good, but I think it could lead to some value, which I can dig. And I could also see a green-black deck that kind of has like this weird self-mill exploit thing going, being interested in this. But I wouldn't just throw this into any black deck and expect it to be good.
No, but like any kind of repeatable, or like, yeah. This goes really well with the blue-black uncommon. Just having something you can repeatedly sacrifice and get extra tokens out of, I think, is pretty cool.
Yeah, it seems great in that deck.
Okay. In that deck, yeah. Pointed discussion, 2 and a black. You draw 2 cards, lose 2 life, then create a blood token. So the black gets a lot of card draw.
Yeah, this is pretty decent card draw. I dig this one. I think I'd be happy to play one of these in most black decks. I don't think you have to stress too much that you're getting a blood token. So is it a Rakdos card? I don't think so. I think like white could afford the life loss to get the cards. Blue-black control can probably afford it too. Green-black is going to be looking for more butts, so this seems like a fine way to find them. And it's almost a draw 3 if you think about it.
Yeah, I was going to say it's close to a draw 3, right?
Yeah.
No, I like it.
And I like your discussion of slots. For your card advantage slot, this seems like a good one.
Yes, exactly. And you do have cards, and that's why I love the card check both slots, right? Like the creature that does this checks both of those, and then I have room for other things, and I think that's where you can gain a lot of advantage. So
yeah.
All right, Ragged Recluse, 1 and a black for a 2/1 human peasant. At the beginning of your end step, if you discarded a card this turn, transform Ragged Recluse into Odious Witch. Whenever it's a 3/3, whenever it attacks, defending player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life.
It's not so bad. Okay, so I got to play a 2/1.
You're going to have blood tokens.
Yeah, and it's not asking a whole lot. Like it's a 2-mana 2/1. That's fine.
Yep.
If I use my blood token, I get a value. This seems okay. I could see.
It's okay.
I could see most decks being like whatever. I could see black-white decks being particularly interested in it for the life gain scenario.
Yeah.
So I think you've got a range of 2-drops and a 1-drop that the different colors you would pair black with would be most interested in, which is interesting to me.
Yeah. And some of them are interchangeable too, right? So I think that's cool.
Yeah,
I like that. Not sad to play that one if I have to. Restless Bloodseeker, 1 and a black for a 1/3. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, create a blood token. Ooh. And then it has sacrifice 2 blood tokens. So we haven't seen a lot of sacrificing blood tokens to do things. Transform this, activate only as a sorcery. So sacrifice 2 blood tokens to make a 3/3 at the beginning with the same ability. At the beginning of your end step, you gained life, create a blood token, and it has 5 mana, 4 and a black. Each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. A little bit of a finisher here.
Yeah, I dig this. This is ticking a lot of boxes. It's worth noting that I think this is exclusively an Orzhov card.
Yep.
But once you're on that scale, I could see being interested in this as early as 3rd pick in some packs, but 5 generally speaking, with the idea of I want to play a 1/3 blocker, gain a little bit of life, flip it over, attack block with it if I need to, and then maybe close out a game with it.
You know what's interesting though is like this could just be a reason, like a thing to use your blood tokens if you're not black-white. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're red-black, let's say, and you're not really gaining a lot of life in places, you're still gonna have a like blood token sitting around that you can use. Like you can just flip this into a 3/3 that has reach. Like game finishing reach, right?
I think you could, but like, isn't the value on the blood tokens like, especially in a red-black deck that might be aggressive and then sort of peter out, that I can filter through lands later and get to my burn spell to finish them off or whatever? I feel like you could play it there, but it like its power is greatly reduced. I want the free token generation, and I'm most likely to get that in white-black. I would not be embarrassed to play it in red-black, and I think I just don't want it anywhere near green or blue unless there's like super high density of lifelink creatures in green.
All right. Yeah, all right. That's fair. That's fair. All right. Rot Tag Gargantua, 3 black for a 5/4 zombie kraken with exploit. And when it exploits a creature, each opponent sacrifices a creature. I like that.
This is a respectable common. I don't think you need to go incredibly nuts to pick it. It's okay to put it in nearly every deck because 5 mana 5/4 is just an okay stat line. And it's a fun little scenario where you're like, I'll get rid of my worst creature and you get rid of your worst creature. Sometimes their worst creature is better than yours and you can get some value there. Plus, if you've got other things that trigger off of exploit, that's good too. So I wouldn't say this is only a blue-black card. You can put it in any of them. But I would say like you can't play infinite 5-drops.
Also true. 5-drops that remove a creature from the other side of the table are usually pretty decent. So
they are. This one has to get rid of one on your side too, though, which is kind of meh.
Yeah. Okay. Skulking Killer, 3 and a black for a 4/2. It's a vampire assassin. When it enters the battlefield, target creature an opponent controls gets -2/-2 until end of turn, if that opponent controls no other creatures.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, am I wrong? Did they not really care about this card at all?
Nope. It looks a lot like a giant cockroach to me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm off it.
Yeah, you can pick it and you can play it, but I don't know why you would.
Hold on one second. I may have to step away for 5 minutes.
Okay, that's cool. I'll carry on if you don't mind.
Okay, yep.
All right, so we've got Undead Butler, which is 1 and a black for a 1/2 creature zombie. When it enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards. When it dies, you may exile it. When you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So I think what we're looking at here is mostly a card that you would be interested in for exploiting purposes. You could chump with it and just get like a weird Raise Dead going. It could also work with some of the disturb cards that you're naturally going to have in blue. So it's not like Butler stuff. That's pretty good. I don't know that it's technically in the butt stuff deck, but I think it's something that we're looking to exploit off of. It reminds me a lot of the Novice Occultist from the most recent set, where like you kind of play it, you have this 1/2, and it's left there waiting for you to do something with it to get your card back, and the Butler's kind of doing that too. If it didn't mill initially, I'd be a little more nervous about playing it, but I think you could play this in a blue-black deck specifically is where I would want it. Or maybe a green-black deck that has heavy exploit and can be sure to get some value off of it. Undying Malice is black for an instant. Until end of turn, target creature gains. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter upon it. We played with this card before, but it was in a set that really didn't want counters on creatures, right?
I don't remember the +1/+1 version. I remember the +2/+0 and comes back.
Oh, well, that one, like, it gets it first. This one is it has to die first, and then it comes back with a counter.
Right. Oh, right. I don't remember playing with this or a card like this. So
there was a card that gave
really
something
recall.
Undying and Avacyn Restored. It was this card. But sure, Feigned Death is pretty close too, ain't it?
I like this card. In my combat trick, not my combat trick slot, but like in that like utility slot because of exploit. Because like I can get something back that I sacrifice to exploit. I can get something back that trades in combat. I can like re-trigger an exploit trigger. I can protect my bomb. I think it fits in that slot in my decks. I probably don't mind playing one of these in a lot of my black decks.
I think I'm with you there. I don't think I'm going to go nuts over it. And I think it does play nicer in the exploit decks. But yeah, I can see playing one of these. It looks okay.
Okay.
Unhallowed Phalanx is 4 and a black for a 1/13 that enters the battlefield tapped.
I think you're putting this in a very specific deck. I have a very specific set of skills that wants this card,
and they involve butt stuff. So yeah, put this in your green-black butt stuff deck, and otherwise stay out of it.
Or if you have the catapult.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want this as well.
Yeah, but I don't think you're going to get that a lot if it's not green-black, but you potentially could. So good call. I'd be on the lookout for that.
Yep.
Vampire's Kiss is a phenomenal movie. Might be an interesting card. It's 1 and a black for a sorcery. Target player loses 2 life. You gain 2 life. Create 2 blood tokens.
I really gotta want blood tokens to play this card, I think. Or I mean, I don't think I want to be spending a card to gain life in deck. Unless I've got a really like critical mass of I really want to gain life to get an advantage cards.
Yeah, this is a card that's saying I'd like to be in Mardu decks, but maybe not doing enough to actually justify the spot. But I could see scenarios where you really want blood tokens or you really want to gain life, and you would play something like this. But generally, I would try to avoid this card. It's one of the few black cards that I think actively looks bad.
Yeah, and if you think about slots, because like you said, like you've always said, right, there's it's tough to have bad cards in limited these days. But like if you think of the slots that this takes up, there's just so many better cards that go in those slots, and it doesn't do enough of either of those sides, like you said. So
okay.
Wedding
Security is 3 black for a 4/4. When it attacks, you may sacrifice a blood token. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter upon it and draw a card.
I'll put this in any deck that has blood tokens.
Yeah, heck yeah. I don't even need that many. This looks great.
Yeah. If I have 0 blood tokens, I'm very sad that I picked this like 3rd pick.
Yeah, but that's where you're taking it, isn't it?
I think so, right? I just think there's so many random ways. It's like energy. There's so many random ways. And if this is a 5/5 that drew you a card, like it's already done its job.
Yeah, agree.
Okay.
Do you think we can get through red in 30 minutes?
Yeah. If we can speed run it.
Okay, I still want to make sure we talk about it. So if we have to stop like in the middle of red, I'm okay with that.
Okay, so we'll just go for 30 minutes and we'll try to speed run it here.
Yeah, but like, well, don't try to speed run it. Let's make sure we get all of the cards and talk about all of the things.
Okay, let me just make sure my coffee's poured. I'll be back in 30 seconds.
Okay, cool. I'll just cover a braid then, because this one's pretty clearly very good. It's 1 in red for an instant common, 3 damage to target creature or destroy target artifact. After looking at the artifacts, there's not really a lot that you're going to want to blow up. So this is mostly just instant speed, 3 damage to target creature, which is great. All of the red decks are going to be interested in this card.
Yep. It's really just the lightning strike.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alluring Suitor is 2 in red for a 2/3. When you attack with exactly 2 creatures, you may transfer this uncommon into Deadly Dancer, which is a 3/3 with trample. When it transforms, you get red. Until end of turn, you get to keep the mana. And red, Deadly Dancer and another target creature get +1/+0 until end of turn. My God, that's a novel.
That's a neat card. Obviously, you can flip it on demand, and you get a free activation off of it. If your opponent hasn't done anything, and you go 2-drop, 3-drop, and they haven't played a blocker yet, like they're dirtling around with card draw, like you just run them over. I'm not going to pick it highly, but I'd be happy to have this in a red deck that I'm turning creature sideways in.
Yeah, which I think is most of the red decks in this format. So maybe just not blue.
Yeah, and do you know what's interesting here too is like I don't have to be attacking with Deadly Dancer to activate the ability on the flip side.
Yeah.
So I can just give one other creature fire breathing or like expensive fire breathing.
Yeah, agree. And you don't have to attack with it to transform it.
Yeah.
It's
so I can
creatures.
just I can just throw 2/2 into the battle, like into the red zone, and activate like threatening to like make one of them trade with my opponent's like X4 or something like that. Yeah, or like if I have flyers, or like train. This checks a lot of boxes in an aggro deck.
It does. This might be as high as a 5th pick for me.
Yeah. It's got a lot of little utilities, a little.
Yeah, it's doing a lot for all of the decks, which I dig.
Yeah, agreed.
Ancestral Anger is red for a sorcery. Target creature gains trample and gets +X/+0, where X is 1 plus the number of cards named Ancestral Anger in your graveyard. Draw a card.
Man, imagine being so angry that you're angry after burning to death.
I mean, I might be pretty angry about being burned to death, dude.
This is a spells matter. That's it. It reminds me of of Crash Through.
Trash Through?
Yeah. So like, and there were decks that wanted Crash Through and made really good utility, like really good use out of it. It was
no, there weren't. There were good players showing off beating up noobs with Crash Through because there really weren't.
I don't know about that. I'm not gonna take it. I'm just gonna say like somebody will have a 4 Ancestral Anger deck and like a really good version of that deck, like that blue red deck. It's a blue red spell.
Yeah, I think this is for blue-red spells. I think there's an argument that some people will make to put it in green-red, and it can get you card velocity, and it does look like we're going to be able to do things like discard cards to draw cards. So this is not unplayable. I just don't think it's very good.
Yeah, but like if you're building that blue-red spells deck, and you're building it with that slots in mind, and you have allocated slots to cards that are cheap, spells that cantrip, this is your card.
This is your cheap spell that cantrips.
This is your cheap spell that cantrips. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Ballista Watcher is 2 red for a 4/3. That's a great stat line. Human Soldier Werewolf, 2 in a red, tap it, deals 1 damage to any target. That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Daybound, it flips into Ballista Wielder, which is a 5/5. Tap, deals 1 damage to any target. A creature dealt damage this way cannot block. It doesn't tap, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
It just pings things and clears blockers out of the way.
Yep. It goes face, it goes creatures, it slices, it dices.
It Julienne's fries.
Yeah, this is a really high pick for me because it checks a lot, right? So I want my modern cards to be flexible, so I like modal spells, and I like cards that do things at different stages of the game. It's that quadrant theory thing, obviously. I'm fine if this is a 4/3 for 4 that doesn't do anything else. If in a board stall it pings things, when it flips it pings things, and sometimes it's just a falter. Sometimes you just win the game off of it accidentally. Yeah, I'm gonna pick this pretty highly.
This card's stupid good.
It's stupid good.
Third pick it and be very happy. And when I'm saying third pick for these cards, I'm not saying I'd never first pick them, just that I'd like to open a bomb rare. So when I want to get this card as third.
Yeah, I think it's going to be first pick out of a lot of packs.
I could easily see it being there. There's a lot to offer here.
Yep.
Belligerent Guest is 2 in a red for a 3/2 trample. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you get a blood token.
It's fine. I think it's a filler 3-drop for me.
I do too, and I reckon it may not get some playability. Like the 3-drop Werewolf in red in the last set, I think I played it twice, and I was unhappy about it. So yeah. I think this is just filler. Like, if you need cards that say Vampire, this happens to be one. Other than that, we're looking at filler minus.
Yeah, I agree. I want my blood tokens incident for them.
Yeah, I don't have to work that hard for them.
Yep.
Blood Hypnotist is 2 in a red for a 3/3 vampire that can't block. Whenever you sacrifice blood tokens, target creature can't block this turn, only once each turn.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm not going to pick it as highly as I would have Ballista Watcher, obviously, but if I've got decent amount of blood tokens, I think this is pretty good.
I think this is another Mardu card, where if you're in an aggressive red-black or aggressive red-white, this card is going to look quite good. And if you're not, it's going to look pretty bad. I don't really want to pair it with green or blue. So I think that's a big thing to bear in mind. That would put it around 7th pick for me, but if we've got it later in a pack, or we're in pack 3 or whatever, maybe its value will change for me.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good analysis.
Blood Petal Celebrant is 1 in red for a 2/1 Vampire. It has first strike as long as it's attacking, and when it dies, you get a blood token.
Yeah, I like this a lot more than the 3/2.
You cut out there
because
okay.
Sorry, I like this a lot more than because I can control if I really need that blood token, I can get it, and this should trade for a lot of things in that 2-drop spot.
Trade bone blocking, like it can attack straight through some of them.
Yeah, that's what I mean, right? So
yeah, I think this is another Mardu card, but also like filler 2-drop for any red deck.
Yeah, filler 2-drop, but I'm gonna take it over the drop.
Yeah, I'm with you. You've cut out every time you've said that 3/2.
Really?
Yes. Are you doing this to troll me?
No, I am not.
Okay, because it was just too perfect. Every time you said the name of the card, it cut out.
That's so funny.
Bloody Betrayal is 2 in a red for a sorcery. Gain control of target creature. Untap it. It gains haste. Create a blood token.
I don't think I saw any sacrifice on demand except for exploit, so this is probably not the greatest in this set.
Yeah, I don't think we're making a steal your guy, exploit your guy deck, but you could be, and there were common ones to do it.
But that's a lot of mana to do that.
Yeah, I think so. I can see playing this in aggro decks, and if you want to have fun trying to do red-black exploit, have fun. It'll look super cool when it gets there, but I don't think I'm going to try it.
Agreed.
Daybreak Combatants is 2 in a red for a 2/2 haste. When it enters the battlefield, target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn.
man, why is it? That's 2/2, like a 2/2 for 3 mana is just not exciting for me.
It's a 4/2 haste.
It is a 4/2 haste that just gets blocked by like a 2-drop. I guess it's like a training card. You can get a boost out of that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's got to be better 3-drops. This is pretty filler minus for me, I think.
I hope so, but I think you've hit the nail on the head in that if there is a deck that wants it, it would be in the Naya color pair, looking to do something with training.
Yeah, agreed.
In the Festivities is red for a sorcery, 1 damage to each opponent and each creature and planeswalker they control.
I don't think I saw enough X1s to main deck this.
I certainly didn't, but get one of these in your sideboard, and if your opponent's playing a bunch of X1s, go get them.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I'm at on it.
Falcon Wrath Celebrants is 4 in a red for a 4/4 Vampire with Menache. When it enters a battlefield, create 2 blood tokens.
Yeah, I can get behind this card. The Menace, I think, puts it over like the top for me and makes it decently playable. 4/4 Menace is pretty big. The blood tokens can be relevant too. This checks a couple of boxes for me. It's not a finisher, but it certainly could be in some states. So I'd like one of these maybe in my deck. If I have to have 2, I'm probably okay with that too.
I'm hoping I don't play this. Like, I don't know. I want a 5/4. I want a 4/5. I guess I do like the 2 blood tokens. Like, it seems fine, but I'm not excited about this. I don't think any particular deck wants it because it just looks like medium 5-drop to me. I guess if I can take advantage of the blood tokens, I'm happy. If I've gotten to 5 mana, maybe I don't need the extra lands, so I can filter through those. Okay, I can see what you're saying.
You get that. If this was a 5 mana 4/4 that gave you a clue token,
yeah, I'd be happy about it, and that's kind of what it is.
I think it's pretty close to that.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty close to that. So I mean, obviously it's format, like obviously it changes once we play the draft 10 times, but like I could see this being in a deck and being pretty okay with it. So
okay, I'm with you there. No specific deck, just do you need a 5?
Yeah.
Fearful Villager is a daybound human werewolf, 2 in a red for a 2/3 with menace. It flips into a 4/3 with menace.
Yeah, I like this over the belligerent guest. Did you hear me that time?
I did hear you that time.
Okay, good. But not excited to play it. But if I have one of these or in my 3-drop spot, I'm not terribly disappointed that is what 3-drop that I have.
Yeah, I went a little nuts over evaluating. There was basically this card in black in the last set. It had 1 less point of toughness when it flipped, and I thought it was insane. And it turned out to be just kind of all right. And I expect that that's what this is too. It's probably all right. So I'm happy to play one of these. So far, it's the 3-drop I'd prefer, but they do seem a bit interchangeable.
This does have the potential of just getting free wins too against an opponent that stumbles.
It has the potential of doing that, but it functionally never does. And any 3-drop would have killed them anyway, because it means they just literally didn't do anything for 4 turns.
Well, I think the menace on the flip side makes that a little harder to like catch up from. But yeah, no, I get you. We're on the same page.
Okay. Flame Blessed Bolt is red for an instant, 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If they die, exile them. So Magma Spray. Sort of.
I think there's a lot of X2s, especially against blue-white. You're probably main decking one of these. And I think it's that scenario, if I have one in the main and one in the board, I'm probably pretty happy with my decisions.
I look at this as basically a replacement level 2-drop, and I might even be happier with it.
Yeah,
so I think I'd probably take up to 3 of these and just put them all in the 2-drop slot.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I'm with Reggie here. I'm not usually hot on shock, but this looks good to me, especially against blue-white. This is how you keep them in check. So I think I would pick this one pretty highly for all of the red decks. But blue-red spells, like, you want 4 of these in your 2-drop slot, functionally, you know?
I did forget about blue-red spells. I feel like I haven't seen a single blue-red spell card yet.
Yeah, this is the first big one for that.
Okay.
Frenzied Devils is 4 in a red for a 3/3 haste. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn.
I hope there's a cheap one of these somewhere.
Because this one doesn't look very good.
It looks fine, but it's just too expensive, and you're not going to get enough of them. Like, you're not going to get 3 of them.
Well, the idea here is this card is going to play a little bit differently than something like the Flame Crasher Fiend or whatever it was in the last set, where you play it early and then you spam off some spells and get them. This one is going to go in your red-white deck or your blue-red deck. It's got that surprise haste factor that they didn't see coming, and it's uncommon, and not a lot of people will play it anyway. And then when you untap, they've got to be freaking terrified to block this thing, because what might you have? Like a combat trick on another creature from white all of a sudden makes this a 5/5, and blue-red spells might just spam off 2 or 3 sorceries and then attack with mana still up. So I think this is a role player in a Jeskai deck, and still a relatively low pick for me, so like maybe 7th, but I can see where this fits in.
Yeah. I'm with you, but like maybe it moved. Maybe it's up a little higher than just before the wheel for me. I think it's a very high second, third pick if I'm in these colors. I just don't want to like take it and gamble because it just underperforms if you're not in that archetype.
Agree.
Okay.
Honeymoon Hearse is 2 and a red for a 5/5 trampley. Tap 2 untapped creatures you control. It becomes an artifact creature until end of turn.
I like that it doesn't have crew. That's interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who's driving it, just 2 people.
Just 2 people. I'm going to reserve judgment on this one. I like big vehicles in general. I'm not convinced that red is the right spot for it in this format. So talk to me in 2 weeks.
I can respect that. I think this goes in an aggro deck, which would probably put me in not playing this with blue-red, and that's about it. Mm-hmm. I think you could slot this into the other decks and be relatively happy with it. You need a high creature count, and you may even need a deck that's playing 1-drops. So like you can go 1-drop,
fair.
1-drop, 2-drop this, attack with them, and then crew it next turn, like play something else, crew it next turn. You need almost like, it's almost giving every creature you play haste in a way if you've got a leftover dude. Mm-hmm. So I think this might just be good in aggressive decks.
I guess the trample is nice. Can't get chumped.
Yeah, it's big, and it's red.
That's fair. Okay.
Hungry Ridge Wolf is 1 and red for a 2/2 wolf. As long as you control another wolf or werewolf, it gets +1/+0 and has trample.
Yeah, red-green card. Pretty serviceable 2-drop in that deck.
And like
if I have a couple of these, I'm probably
okay
with it. Like I'm not sad. Yeah.
Same, and it's like filler 2-drop outside of that. Like you could play it in a red-white deck if you need another 2.
Yep.
All right. Into the Night is 3 and a red sorcery. It becomes night. Discard any number of cards, then draw that many cards +1.
Meh, whatever. It doesn't. I'm not playing this.
You might in your blue-red spells deck.
Maybe it's too expensive. I'd rather the instance.
Do you have card draw slots in red decks that aren't also blue sometimes?
Yeah, but I can get that from black.
Can you get it from white?
I guess maybe I can't get it from white.
You could discard your disturb
like
cards.
The tormenting voice of our day.
Yeah. I can see this being also playable in werewolves potentially, where your opponent's like, okay, it's day, I don't have to worry about it, and then you do this, and you get some value from there. So, like, I think if you're going to play this, it's a Naya card. I also don't think it's amazing, and I wouldn't pick it particularly highly. This is an uncommon you will see reliably wheel, is my guess. But if you're going to play it, it's Naya.
Sure. Pick it up on the wheel sometimes.
Kessig Flame Breather is 1 and red for a 1/3. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it deals 1 damage to each opponent.
There we go. Now we're starting to put something together. Yeah, I think spells matter. Jam. I want this in my 2-drop spot.
That's funny. It's obviously a different format, but in the D&D set, there was a dwarf that basically did this, and it was bad. Like, I didn't want that in my 2-drop slot. So I'll have to play with this. It's supposed to go in blue-red spells, right? And potentially in red-white disturb or something like that. I guess it's kind of exclusively for blue-red, now that I think about it, because it's just not aggressive enough to go anywhere else. So we'll have to see how it plays.
Yeah, it goes up the more you have, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm going to call it a blue-red spells payoff only and say I really don't want to play it outside of that.
Deal.
does kind of feel like they ran out of ideas for that one. That could have been a better 2. Lacerate Flesh is 4 and a red for a sorcery, deals 4 damage to target creature. Create a number of blood tokens equal to the number of excess damage dealt to the creature this way. So that could be 0.
Yes. I'm kind of uninspired by this one.
Same.
So the rate doesn't seem good enough, especially when we have 3 damage at 2 mana, and the black removal spells look pretty good.
Yeah, this is the bad removal that sometimes you have to play, but you're kind of hoping that you don't need to play.
Yep, that's where I'm at on it.
All right, Lamholt Recontour is 3 and a red for a 2/4 human werewolf. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. It is day bound. It will flip into a 4/4 that deals 2 damage to each opponent.
Yeah. If I'm blue-red spells, I want as many of these as possible.
And we talked a lot about the blue-red spells deck in the set review for Midnight Hunt when I was doing that with the Mana League, but it turned out there was a green-red spells deck too. So it's worth mentioning for both the Flame Breather and the Raconteur that you could potentially play that in Teamer colors. We'll need to see green and see exactly what they have over there, but if pieces like that are there again, we could use that.
Yep. But I'm starting to see that Spells Matter deck come together with a couple of Flame Breathers in your 2-drop spot, and then a Devils and a Raconteur. And now it's starting to look a little scary. So
yeah, I could see it.
Okay.
Lightning Wolf. I like the design of this card a lot. This card pleases me. 3 and a red for a 4/3 wolf. You can spend 1 in a red and give it first strike at sorcery speed.
Yeah, it's an interesting design to have that up front. So you have already made that decision, and now your opponent can't they don't have to think about calling your bluff. Right?
Yeah.
So sometimes you would attack in with a card like this, but I really don't want to spend the mana. But it's really safe to make that attack because my opponent probably won't block it. They don't know it's in my hand. Doing it up front flips that around and kind of eliminates that bluff, and I really like that design.
Yeah, it's no threat of activation. It's an activation of threat. It's a neat design space, and I think it fills out into basically a filler-level card. If you've got some wolf synergies and you need a 4-drop, sounds pretty good. Other than that, we can pass. The days where Borderland Minotaur was actually a good card are probably long behind us, but I really like the design of this card.
Yeah, it's a pretty good 4-drop spot, for sure.
All right, let's see if we can do the rest of these in 10 minutes, or we'll pause when we need to if they're complicated.
There are 12 cards left.
That's possible. Okay. Magma Pummeler is X red for a 0/0. It enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters. If damage would be dealt to it while it has a +1/+1 counter, prevent the damage and remove that many counters. When 1 or more counters are removed, it deals damage to any target equal to the counters.
Yeah, so it's just a kind of a weird damage redirection. It reminds me of a Devil Token, but obviously bigger, and you can kill a lot of things. It reads like it's going to be good to me.
It does. It's going to be, you're basically building your own Pitchburn Devils at 5 mana, and then you can scale it past there. That's a good way to think about it. However, it can be chomped, sort of. You could attack with it. They could block it with a 1/1. You have to remove one of your counters and 1 point of damage somewhere. But if this plays anywhere close to Pitchburn Devils, I think we'll be quite happy with it. So I could see going as high as 5th pick for this.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Way better on defense than offense.
Markov Retribution is 2 and a red for a sorcery. Choose 1 or both. Creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. Target vampire you control deals damage equal to its power to another target creature.
It's kind of neat. Is it a red-black gold card, do you think? Or do you think you can find utility in other decks?
I think it's pretty damn close to a red-black gold card, and we should treat it as such.
Right.
There may be a rare deck that has 10 red vampires in it, and sure, evaluate it there. But if you're only giving your creatures +1/+0 at sorcery speed, that sucks. If you get to have a sorcery speed bite, that's great. So as long as you understand this is a Rakdos gold card, you can pick it highly. It looks great.
Does white? White does have a couple of vampires, not many though.
I didn't think it had
at
any.
least one white vampire
At rare.
No, there was the common one, but it wasn't very good.
Oh yeah, the 1/2. It sucked.
Yeah,
Okay.
it sucked. But like there are a couple of vampires in white, I think.
Technically, but
Technically.
sure, it's still a red, black, gold card.
Yeah.
Prior Spawn is 4 red for a 6/4. When it dies, it deals 3 damage to any target.
Probably a decent Pitchburn Devils. Pitchburn Devils was like a 3/3.
Yep.
Yeah, this is pretty good on the top end. It can just chunk through, and then like it's an easy 2-for-1 for 6 mana most of the time.
Yeah, and you can exploit it too and get a free lightning bolt.
I mean, sometimes you just got a lightning bolt to face.
Yeah, you probably don't want to do that. This does have the 6-drop problem of how many 6-drops can you put in a deck. The answer is not too many, but if you don't have one and you need one, this one seems pretty good. And as Dave's mentioning, you probably do get a 2-for-1 with this, which I dig.
Yeah, pretty easy. I think it's pretty easy to get a 2-for-1 with this. There's better 6-drops, but like sometimes you just need a 6/4 in red.
Agree.
Okay.
Reckless Impulse is 1 in red for a sorcery. Exile the top 2 cards of your library until end of your next turn. You may play those cards.
Seems pretty okay. And if you need some cheap card draw.
Yeah, it could be all right in blue-red spells. It could also be all right as like an early divination to hit your land drops in really any deck. I suspect that the blue-red spells deck is going to gobble this up and the other players won't really see it because it looks like something they'd be more interested in.
It's card draw in your green-red.
Yeah,
potentially.
fair.
Like if you're ramping.
I kind of dig it. I don't see any reason not to play this.
Yeah.
I don't think you're really going to
want it more than the 4-mana one.
Yeah, I do too for sure. I think white's maybe the only color I don't want to play it in. But even then I could justify it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Rending Flame is 2 in a red for an instant, 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If it's a spirit, it deals 2 damage to that permanent's controller as well.
Yeah, super high pick. There's the red murder.
Yeah, it's the red murder. You probably want to get it 3rd if you can.
Yep.
Runebound Wolf is 1 in red for a 2/2. It has 3 red tap, deals damage equal to the number of wolves and werewolves you control to target opponent.
It's a pretty good activated ability on a 2-drop.
It is, agree.
5th?
I don't know, man. This one to me feels like I'm probably not taking it in pack 1, but if I'm in red-green and see this later, then yeah, I want to get it. So
sure. I can buy that. Yep.
So I don't think it's something I'm taking highly in pack 1, but it is something I'll gobble up a little later.
Okay, yeah, deal.
Sanguine Statuette is 1 in red for an artifact. Enters the battlefield, you get a blood token. Whenever you sacrifice a blood token, you may have this become a 3/3 vampire artifact creature with haste until end of turn.
I like the blue defender version more.
I kind of did too.
This reminds me a lot more of Riddle Form.
Yeah.
And there were decks where Riddle Form was pretty good.
There were also decks where Riddle Form was pretty good, where I died to something stupid attacking me on the ground with 2 Riddle Forms in play and a handful of lands.
Yep. This gets rid of those lands with your blood tokens.
Well, it gets rid of 1, I suppose.
Yep.
So it's like on turn.
I think this will be pretty good if you have like the nut blood token deck. I'm going to guess.
Yeah, and otherwise I don't want it. So I'm not going to pick it ever high enough to play with it. But if you're basically all vampires that are making blood tokens and you see this in pack 3, grab you 1. I think you'll like it.
Agreed.
Shore Strike is 1 in red for an instant. Target creature gets +3/+0 in first strike until end of turn.
I like this combat trick. Carry on. I got room for a Sure Strike in some of my decks.
I do too. It's worth noting you're not really going to save a creature with this one, unlike the white one. So, like, I think it's a step down from there, but I've certainly played Sure Strike. We've seen this card plenty of times.
Yep.
Vampire's Vengeance is 2 in a red. It deals 2 damage to each non-vampire, and you get a blood token.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Pirate Clasm card.
Oh yeah, I remember Pirate Clasm.
And that was pretty decent, right? Like if you're building around it, there was a lot of X2s. I think there's a lot of X2s that this will kill. Like if you get a 2-for-1 out of this card, you're pretty happy.
Agree.
And I think it's pretty easy to get a 2-for-1 out of this card.
I do think it's essentially a vampire build around though, right? Like you're not playing it.
I mean,
or maybe sideboard you're in your green red deck if you see your opponent has a lot of X2s.
Maybe like, yeah, I think if you know you have this, you can like engineer your game around it.
Yeah, I would always main deck this when I had one. That's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
Vampiroclasm, if you will. I approve.
Pyroclasm. I like that.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Where are you picking this?
I don't know. Not 5th.
So 7th.
Maybe 5th. I don't know. I'm never gonna see it.
Yeah, I know you're not. That's what I was going for. Like,
Yeah.
we're never going to get to play with this because I want to pick it 7th.
Yeah. I want one, though.
Yeah, it'd be cool to get one.
Yeah.
Voldaren Epicure is red for a 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each opponent, and you create a blood token.
No, I really gotta want blood tokens or have a lot of exploit to make this playable.
Which you have just described a black-red deck, or some black-red decks. So I think that's the home for this card, is not every deck will want it, but if you've got a bunch of the exploiting 2-drops and you want a bunch of blood tokens, you're going to be in black-red, and this may very well be the vampire for you.
Yeah, that's the only time that I want it, though. I think I've got to have... I don't even think I want it if just for the blood token. I think there's way better cards to put it like as my blood token makers.
Agree.
Okay.
Voltaic Visionary is 1 in red for a 3/1 human wizard. You may tap it to deal 2 damage to you. That seems pretty good. Exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn at sorcery speed. When you play a card exiled with Voltaic Visionary, transform it into Volt Charged Berserker. It's a 4/3 that can't block.
When you play a card exiled with it. Interesting.
So 2 mana 3/1. I can attack, I can block. Once it can't do whatever 2 mana 3/1s do, I can tap it and draw a card and take 2 damage, then play a card. If I do that, I got myself a 4/3 that can't block. So I've made it a little more relevant. This seems fine in an aggressive deck. So I'm going to say that this is a Naya or, Naya card, basically. And you could kind of justify it in black, too. So basically not blue is where I would want this.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think I'm on board with that.
Probably not. It's probably not a draw into these colors. Maybe it is.
Yeah, so
maybe it's a 5th to 7th.
5th to 7th. If you want 2 mana 3/1s in this set, you're going to have to pick them higher than in the last set because they were everywhere in the last set and they're not here.
Yep. Okay.
Weary Prisoner is 3 in red for a 2/6. Bud stuff in red. Defender, Daybound. And it flips into Wrathful Jailbreaker, which is a 6/6, attacks each combat if able.
I don't know. There's probably better cards in green to fit in this slot if I'm playing werewolves.
Yeah, this reminds me a little bit of Tavern Ruffian, which I never...
Exactly.
I couldn't say anything bad about her. I just never really played the card. And I suspect that this will fit into the same area. But like if you do happen to have a red-black toughness matters shenanigans going on, you could consider something like this. And it's not a terrible card. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not something you're really interested in playing.
Yeah, that sums it up. If I never pick this, I probably won't even notice that I've never picked it.
Yeah. Cool art.
Yeah.
All right, well, that, I think, brings us to the end of today. Chat, I will be finishing this review on Monday. I may grab somebody from chat to do it with me, or I may just solo it, so we'll have all that information for you on Monday. Make sure that you stay tuned. I want to say a big thank you to Dave for doing the reunion. It was fun to get to hang out with you again.
It's always fun.
It's a good time. Is there anything that you're doing that you'd like to promote or call people's attention to?
No, I don't do anything fun these days.
Fair enough. Well, we'll see you Monday to troll us in chat.
Absolutely. I can't wait.
So chat, you guys say goodbye to Dave. Spam some wizards if you have them, some cats if you don't. And I will catch you guys back on Monday and we'll have a good time. Bye-bye.